Dragon Age Veilguard has just released, so I'm going to celebrate the only way I know how, by going back to the series' beginning and playing a 15-year-old RPG. Phobia warning for giant spiders, and spoiler warning for literally the entire game. Dragon Age Origins is considered by many to be one of the greatest RPGs ever made, a BioWare game from the Golden Age, combining design elements from epic fantasies like Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire, with varied gameplay mechanics from past BioWare games like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic, and Mass Effect. It's a sweeping tale of personal connection turning cultural strife into unity, and ultimately good triumphing over evil through sacrifice, with a lot of choices to make along the way. However, it has aged, and the RPG landscape has changed. Will the design choices it made stand up today? Is the jank endearing or infuriating? And are we all collectively looking back with rose-tinted glasses and forgetting the fade, the deep roads, the brutal difficulty spikes? Can you even play this game without patching it to Orzammar and back? And is it just fantasy Mass Effect? I'll look at all of this and more, but first, confession time. Hi, I'm Josh Strife-Hayes, and I've never actually finished Dragon Age Origins. I played it on stream many years ago, and I enjoyed it, but streaming a game demands you focus on the audience of the stream and not really on the game. And about halfway into the stream, I realised I was enjoying the game, but I wasn't able to give it the focus I felt it deserved while also streaming, so I stopped streaming it and decided to finish it off stream. But life happened, and I never did. So let's change that. I'll be going back to the start, joining the Grey Wardens, uniting the Circle of Magi, the Dalish clans, and the Orzammar dwarves to stand against the Darkspawn. I'll get to know my companions, do some side quests, and maybe even dabble in some enchantment, all to answer the simple question: Dragon Age Origins, was it actually any good? As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep this channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. More information on how to support at the end, and a small part of this video is sponsored by Gamersubs, but which part exactly is hidden in the fade, so most people never find it. For now, let's begin. Dragon Age Origins is a BioWare game, and I've already covered two of BioWare's most successful games, Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. I've also played through Mass Effect 1 and 2 on stream. Now, the rumours go that Wizards of the Coast, the Dungeons & Dragons people, were so difficult to work with and so demanding that Neverwinter Nights ended up being really restricted based on what BioWare originally wanted to do. Ultimately, Neverwinter Nights was not the game BioWare wanted to make, and once that released, BioWare stepped away from Dungeons & Dragons, took all the ideas they weren't allowed to do, and made the game they wanted to make, keeping full creative control. That game became Dragon Age Origins. Releasing on PC, Xbox 360 and PS3 back in 2009, it got overwhelmingly positive reviews. However, not all versions are exactly the same. The PC version could switch between a third-person action camera or zoomed-out top-down tactical camera, and the difficulty choice is actually mechanically different from console to PC. Just be aware if you're going to try and play this on console now, the DLC servers went offline a few years ago, meaning any extra downloadable content not purchased from the Xbox store or already stored on your console is now unavailable. So PC is the way to go. Well, kind of. We'll see issues with that later. For the most part, I'll be playing without a guide, so I'll likely miss things, but if a plot hook catches me, I'll follow it, and if a puzzle proves too complicated or mystery too intriguing, I'll check Google. Bear in mind there are items and plots you can permanently miss if you don't do them in certain timeframes, and companion characters can permanently die depending on your choices. I'll be playing the Ultimate Edition on PC, which comes with all the DLC, including the Awakening prequel, the alternate history Darkspawn Chronicles, and the Witch of the Wild's mini-sequel following Morrigan. They all deserve their own video, so I won't be delving too deeply into any of them here. We launch the game, the main menu is bleak and bloody, music is deep and powerful, intro cinematic sets the tone well.
The Chantry teaches us that it is the hubris of men which brought the Darkspawn into our world. The mages had sought to usurp heaven, but instead they destroyed it. They were cast out, twisted and cursed by their own corruption. They returned as monsters, the first of the Darkspawn. They became a blight upon the lands, unstoppable and relentless. The Dwarven kingdoms were the first to fall, and from the deep roads, the Darkspawn drove at us again and again, until finally we neared annihilation. Until the Grey Wardens came. Men and women from every race, warriors and mages, barbarians and kings. The Grey Wardens sacrificed everything to stem the tide of darkness, and prevailed. It has been 4 centuries since that victory, and we have kept our vigil. We have watched and waited for the Darkspawn to return. But those who once called us heroes have forgotten. We are few now, and our warnings have been ignored for too long. It may even be too late, for I have seen with my own eyes what lies on the horizon. Maker, help us all.
Welcome to the world of Thedas, specifically the southeastern kingdom of Ferelden, ruled by good King Cailan. Many years ago, the land was taken over by a blight, where evil creatures called Darkspawn kill everything, so humans, elves and dwarves had to join together to push them back. Basically imagine the opening scene from Lord of the Rings. To protect from another blight and the Darkspawn returning, the Order of the Grey Wardens was created. Men and women from every race across Ferelden with authority to demand soldiers from anywhere for the good of the realm. However, over time, the reputation of the Grey Wardens faded into a more ceremonial role, and they don't command the respect they once did. Now, however, the Darkspawn are returning. The overall tone is dark, grounded, low fantasy with a faint hint of hope in an otherwise cruel world. It's not grimdark because there is hope. Humanity does shine through, but it's definitely beaten down. Now, many years ago, Zero Punctuation would criticize the world of Dragon Age, saying it's not dark, it's just Tolkien-esque fantasy tropes, elves in the forest. And that is true to an extent. The game is a stereotype. There are archetypes used, but it's in the additions to the archetypes that Dragon Age finds its own character. The elves being at war with the werewolves and the connected backstory of this. The dwarves valuing diplomacy and searching for an ancient relic and its connected backstory. The humans being just as cruel as the Darkspawn. It's a world built on stereotypes, yes, but it's in the expansion of those stereotypes, the connected lore, which brings the darkness Dragon Age is known for. The armor design is exaggerated but still believable, inspired by genuine medieval stuff. Dragon Age isn't a silly world, it takes itself very seriously, but the fun comes from the characters finding levity within the bleakness. We'll look at that soon. Character creation, 3 races, human, elf and dwarf, and 3 classes, warrior, rogue and mage. The combination of race and class will decide your origin story. There are 6 possible options to choose from, with some restrictions, such as dwarves can't be mages, as they are disconnected from the magical Fade realm. The origin story you play through will have some impact on the story later, but they all connect into a single narrative pretty quickly. I'll start as an elven sorceress within the Circle of Magi. I'll play as a tribute to the best spooky magical girl, the character who had the most impact on my teenage life and set my preferences for the rest of time. Thorn from Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. You can manipulate the character portrait, throw some stats into the traditional RPG stats choices: strength, dexterity, willpower, magic, cunning and constitution. You can call them what you want, but we know these are D&D stats. Stats affect both inherent values and our ability to equip powerful stuff later. Then we choose our skills. These are out-of-combat things like herb lore or potion making, but the only real choice is be better at combat. And then more points into abilities, including spells, weapon combos, and class-specific things. Abilities exist on horizontal tracks from level 1 to 4, needing the earlier unlocked to reach the later. I'll go Fire Mage, choose normal difficulty, which is something I'll regret later, and off we go. Magic in the world of Ferelden is looked at with unease and distrust. Mages are connected to the Fade, a realm of unreality filled with demons and temptations. They draw on the energy of the Fade to cast magic, but if not controlled, you can become an unwilling gateway for demons. You do not choose if you are born with a connection to the Fade, and if you are discovered to have one, you must be sent to the Chantry for training. So the mages are all governed by the Circle of Magi, housed in this magical tower, all watched over by the Chantry and their Templar Holy Knights, effectively anti-magic soldiers. To become a full mage of the Circle, we must go through the Harrowing, a trial where we enter our own personal version of the Fade and defeat whatever demon we find, proving our mental resilience against temptation. Each starting zone effectively introduces one aspect of Ferelden's society and structure: magical energy, elvish custom, or dwarven stubbornness. Move around with the WASD keys while in third person, or right-click while zoomed out in tactical mode. Interact with objects like doors, chests, NPCs when you cursor over them and they glow. While in conversation, you'll have multiple choice options. Normally it's nice, neutral, nasty for role-playing, but these choices do matter slightly. Sometimes you'll see a choice with persuade or intimidate in square brackets. These both relate to your coercion skill. The one you choose is just the one you want to roleplay as. Higher means you'll pass more checks, but you don't actually get told if you're going to pass or fail the check before you make it. You can try and fail. This means you'll want to consider building your main character into a charismatic machine so you can open all the options. The Circle of Magi opening throws you straight into the Fade Realm. It's your harrowing ritual, so if everything seems a little bit blurry, that's why. Examine this statue and we get a Codex entry. The Codex is a complete list of everything in the game, from in-game mechanics to items to history of the land. There is a lot of extra reading here if you want to do it. We spot our first enemy and the game auto-pauses, so let's talk combat. Dragon Age Origins feels like a greatest hits of BioWare's previous game styles. On PC, you've got the zoomed-in isometric view from Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, limited class-specific skills from Mass Effect, and resource management from Knights of the Old Republic. The real-time with pause combat style means you can tactically issue orders while paused, like skill use or drinking a potion, then unpause it, and all of those queued orders happen at once. Click to begin auto-attacking. Your skills are shown to the bottom, and you cycle through them spending either mana or stamina, whatever your class resource is, but these costs aren't static. All equipable armor has a fatigue value. Heavier armor has more fatigue. The higher your total fatigue value, the more expensive your skills become based on a percentage increase. So a mage can wear heavy armor, but the increased fatigue means spells now cost more mana, sometimes up to double or even triple the original value. This is a lovely way of balancing increased defense with increased resource cost. A fully tanked up character is trading utility for survival. But if you need access to a varied and cheap skill set, light armor would be the way to go. You equip armor from the inventory, and if you hold right click over an item, the radial menu will appear, similar to Neverwinter Nights but not used as frequently. Some spells like Arcane Bolt can be cast without sheathing your weapon, making them perfect for battle mage style builds. Others, like Fireball, need the character to sheath and then cast, which makes the animation longer, so knowing which spells are efficient to cast while in melee combat will really matter. Some spells, like Fireball, have an area of effect casting marker. Others, like Flame, have a cone spreading out from the caster. These spells have an aim assist and will often snap to a target enemy, but this isn't always the best choice, as friendly fire is on. You can blow your own team up or freeze them, so manually aiming to cover enemies and not allies matters. Warrior skills can inspire allies and increase damage or grab enemy aggro. Mage skills can increase defense or stun enemies. Rogue skills can summon helpers or place traps, but there are two vital types of abilities which fundamentally change combat: stances and sustain spells. Stances have no resource requirement. They are toggled on or off, like the archer going into rapid fire stance. You'll increase the fire rate but decrease the critical hit chance, or the warrior going into defensive shield stance or aggressive rage stance. You can change the stance freely based on the enemy you're fighting. But then you have sustained spells like magical shields, elemental weapon enhancements, or the always overpowered haste. These are spells which, once cast, remain active, but they have a mana or stamina reservation cost, as in the caster has to permanently dedicate a percentage of their total bar to sustaining the spell. As we'll see with the Arcane Warrior build later, this can mean sustaining 3 or 4 different spells takes up your entire mana bar, but ends up being worth it. Your health and class resource both fully refill when you're out of combat, and any downed characters get back up. This means each combat encounter is a puzzle to solve, and once you've solved it, you are restored before moving on to the next. Single-use items like potions or bombs are meant to be used during combat, not between encounters. This also means if you barely scrape a victory with one team member making it out alive, it is still a victory, and that happens to me several times. Older RPGs had the unfortunate state of sometimes soft-locking your progress if you had an injured team and no way to heal them just before a tough fight. But that doesn't mean there aren't consequences for failure. Every time a character gets downed in a fight, they'll gain an injury, a stacking debuff. There are 13 different injuries, and they can reduce your base stats, healing rate, maximum health, damage, or attack speed, and remember, if you die many times, you can stack these up many times. You can heal these with an injury kit, a spell, or by visiting the party camp. We'll find that later. The only other major combat element is the tactics menu, and we'll see that when we have our first companion. Back to the Fade, we meet a mouse, who's actually a guy called Mouse, and now the map has plot markers added. Your journal lists all the quests you're on, broken down by storyline or DLC. You can make one active at a time and your mini-map or main map now have a little arrow pointing to the NPC location or items you'll need. While here we meet a spirit of valor who looks suspiciously like a Templar, and I really like the armor design. It's stylized and chunky, but just real enough you can imagine it being functional. We convince the knight to help us fight the Fey Demon, and he gives us a cool staff. Magical staffs have ranged magical auto attacks built into them. When equipping it, I do notice this. I have an item called the Blood Plate already in my inventory. This is an Ultimate Edition gift item. I can't equip it yet, but I'll keep it around for when I can. It's not game-breaking, as you can find better stuff in the mid to late game. Meet a bear covered in spikes. This is a sloth demon. Dragon Age bases most demons on sins. We'll meet a pride, rage, and lust demon later. We answer its riddles, and now Mouse, the human spirit, can turn into a bear, letting us control him in combat and use bear form specific attacks. Eventually we find the rage demon, Lord of the Fade. We take it on and our harrowing is complete. Mouse then asks if, now we're a fully fledged mage, we wouldn't mind taking him out of the Fade as well into the real world. And this seems rather suspicious, and yep, Mouse was the real demon of the Fade all along, trying to trick us to open the gateway, so now we actually pass the harrowing and wake up in the Mage's Tower with our friend and fellow mage, Joan. Time for more world building. The Fade is dangerous, and the Chantry watch over the circle of mages to make sure they don't become demonic conduits. But what if a mage can't control the Fade? Or what if they're likely to work with demons? Or they're an apprentice who just doesn't want the responsibility of having a magical connection? Well, they can volunteer to become tranquil. The process of creating a tranquil, of cutting a mage off from the Fade, is essentially a magical lobotomy, and we'll meet some of the tranquils soon. The overall humanity of this world is lovely, like overhearing conversations between students and teachers. They're funny, emotional, they feel real, and that's something Dragon Age does really well. It has human reactions to otherworldly situations. When people try and write dark stories, they make both the world and the characters dark, brooding, serious. But that's not always what happens. Gallows humour, the act of laughing at or finding fun in really dark, upsetting stuff, is something humans are really good at. And when faced with something incredibly scary or dark, finding comedy in it is the human thing to do. If the overall world is dark, the characters can be the glimmer of light, but the real nuance is in how you write this. It's not a quippy one-liner marvelified aloofness. It's not wisecracks, one-dimensional, or the writer trying to show how funny they are line by line in a vacuum. It's the character using situation-specific humour as a coping mechanism. And the true test of that comes when you see the character's emotional defences break, the humour stop, the darkness swallow the laughter. The characters in the world of Ferelden aren't funny because they don't care. They're funny because they do. They joke in spite of the darkness, and the saddest emotional breaks are when we see the darkness win. And we do see it win. We've leveled up, shown by the little plus symbol to the side of the character portrait. You get 3 stat points to spend per level, then can increase 1 skill and 1 ability along the horizontal track. Some of these are always on passive abilities which apply once you have them. You don't need to activate them. If you try to leave the tower, a Templar will stop you. Only mages on official circle business can leave. And in the supply room, we meet Owain, a tranquil.
Welcome to the Circle's stockroom of magical items. My name is Owain. How may I assist you? I voluntarily submitted to the rite of tranquility. I was unwilling to undergo the harrowing. I find this state agreeable. Tranquility has its merits. I see the world with clarity. I remember the days when my mind was filled with inconvenient and seething emotions. Now things are simple. I was ordered to never speak of it. I cannot go against the Circle's wishes.
He guards magical relics and we'll need him later. For now, we head to First Enchanter Irving to let him know we've passed the harrowing, and while here, we meet Duncan, a Grey Warden. He's recruiting for the Grey Wardens to repel the Darkspawn blight. Rumours are the Darkspawn horde is being led by an archdemon, and only a Grey Warden can kill an archdemon. Why? We don't know. But there's some more local drama. We learn that our friend Jowan has been having illicit liaisons with an apprentice priestess. He loves her, but he has also discovered the Chantry are going to force Jowan to become tranquil against his will. And if he's made tranquil, he will forget his love. So he wants to escape. We pressure him on why they would force tranquility onto him, and Jowan mentions he might possibly be a blood mage. Blood magic, or using the life force of yourself or others for your own magical power, is extremely taboo. If the Chantry even suspect him of being a blood mage and don't make him tranquil, they would kill him. But escape isn't that easy. When joining the tower, all mages must give a phylactery, a small vial of their own blood. This can then be used to magically track them down later. So escaping would mean destroying Jowan's phylactery first. You have to decide. Help your childhood friend and possible blood mage defy the order and escape, or report him to the chantry or the circle. Moral choices in the first 30 minutes. I love it. So of course I'm going to help him escape. The phylactery is stored in the magical basement, so we need to melt a magical lock. This means we need a rod of fire, but the equipment is regulated. So we chat to this lovely lady who has a spider infestation problem in some connected magical caves. We agree to clear them out, and then she will owe us a favour. And this is how most of the game works. Origins isn't a single open world, it's a series of connected maps. Safe zones like the Mage's Tower or cities are filled with NPCs who need things. You accept quests and then travel to the adventure zones and go and kill stuff. Maps are relatively small but densely packed. There's also no jumping, so no parkour here. Take on some spiders, trigger a trap, become bound and almost die, and as I'll soon learn, battlefield control is far more important than raw damage numbers. Spiders cleared out, favour called in. Please sign this requisition form so we can have a rod of fire. With the rod we head to the magical basement and it doesn't work. There are anti-magic wards everywhere, typical chantry nonsense. Right, plan B. Fight our way in. Find an alternate entry point to the phylactery storage, and this is where group combat kicks in. While in combat, you can select your team up to 4 characters and control them all manually, issuing orders and movement. Just be aware that while selected, a character will not take any independent actions, so selecting everyone is great for micromanaging, but if you forget to cast a spell, the character will not take the initiative to do it themselves, even if it would be beneficial, like healing themselves. However, if you only select one character, the others will now act independently, and this brings up the tactics system. Baldur's Gate had the companion personalities. You could set them and let the companion act independently, be more aggressive, be more defensive. Neverwinter had the mercenaries kind of doing their own thing alongside you. Dragon Age Origins has a macro tactics system using if commands based on enemy or companion health thresholds. Basically, they're behavior macros that you can set. For example, you can set the priority of if own health drops below 50%, cast heal on self. If party member health drops below 40%, cast heal on them. If fireball is available, cast fireball on enemy. If health hits threshold, activate this stance and engage in melee or ranged combat. You're building a series of commands the character will try to follow. The tactics system is pretty robust. Extra tactics slots are available as level up bonuses, letting you build more complex strategies. This is the bridge between Dragon Age being a purely party-based RPG where you as the player are responsible for everything, like vanilla Baldur's Gate, and Dragon Age being an action game where you control your main character and your team is competent without you, like Mass Effect. I also discovered the awesome power of doorways. Funneling the enemy into a cluster and using AoE attacks to stunlock everyone is always the best choice. We find some creepy relics down here, and this is a great example of the game's humour.
And I shall endure till the Maker returns to light their fires again.
Ambiguous rubbish, it could mean anything. I can do it too. The sun grows dark, but lo, here comes the dawn.
Stop talking to it.
Scared characters finding silliness in a serious world works really well. Use the flame rod on a magical duplication statue, the only time in the game you'll have to do this. Blow the wall up and find the phylactery. Leave the basement and then get caught. Problem is, Jowan is actually a blood mage and uses blood magic to knock the Templars out and escape. For our role in helping a blood mage, we are sentenced to magical prison, but Duncan has another offer. Join him, become a Grey Warden, fight the Darkspawn. You know what? It sounds better than prison. So we swear fealty to Duncan and become a Grey Warden apprentice. Leave the tower and travel to Ostergar, an ancient ruin where we meet the human army preparing to push the Darkspawn back, proudly led by King Kalen. The main problem with the king is he's idealistic but naive.
I was beginning to worry you'd miss all the fun.
Not if I could help it, Your Majesty.
Then I'll have the mighty Duncan at my side in battle after all. Glorious. Allow me to be the first to welcome you to Ostergar. The Wardens will benefit greatly with you in their ranks. I'm sorry to cut this short, but I should return to my tent. Loghain waits eagerly to bore me with his strategies.
Your uncle sends his greetings and reminds you that Redcliffe forces could be here in less than a week.
Ha! Eamon just wants in on the glory. We've won 3 battles against these monsters, and tomorrow should be no different. I'm not even sure this is a true blight. There are plenty of Darkspawn on the field, but alas, we've seen no sign of an archdemon.
Disappointed, Your Majesty?
I'd hoped for a war like in the tales. A king riding with the fabled Grey Wardens against a tainted god. but I suppose this will have to do.
A competent warrior, no doubt, but blinded by glory and valour, the romanticised stories of old. He wants to be part of them. Ostagar is where all the starting stories meet up. Whichever opening you played through, you will arrive here. There's a sick Mabari warhound, so we agree to find some medicine for him. And then we meet our fellow Grey Warden, Alistair.
Haven't Grey Wardens asked more than enough of the Circle?
I simply came to deliver a message from the revered mother, Sir Mage. She desires your presence.
What her reverence desires is of no concern to me. I am busy helping the Grey Wardens, by the King's orders, I might add.
Should I have asked her to write a note?
Tell her I will not be harassed in this manner.
Yes, I was harassing you by delivering a message.
Your glibness does you no credit.
Here I thought we were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The Grumpy One.
Enough. I will speak to the woman if I must. Get out of my way, fool.
You know, one good thing about the Blight is how it brings people together.
Alistair is a brilliantly written and performed character, full of self-doubt and fear, but masking it with aloof humour and sharp wit, expertly voiced by Steve Valentine, who would go on to play Harry Flynn in Uncharted 2. So let's just touch on the voice cast, because it is stellar. Kate Mulgrew, known for being Captain Janeway, Simon Templeman, known for being Kane in Soul Reaver, Steve Blum for Cowboy Bebop, Claudia Black from Farscape, who would go on to work on Uncharted 2 as Chloe Fraser, Patrick Adams from Suits, even legendary actor Tim Curry is here. Dragon Age Origins has a stacked voice cast, and they've made great use of it. Conversations flow, lines aren't just spoken, they are performed, and when the emotional moments happen, they hit hard. Alistair was originally a Templar of the Chantry, a mage hunter. He doesn't elaborate on what led him to the Grey Wardens. We meet some other initiates and get sent into the local wilds with two tasks. First, find some Darkspawn blood, we'll need it for something. And second, there should be some old Grey Warden treaty scrolls in an abandoned outpost. They're pretty important, go and find them. So off we go, and the game crashes. So the main problem with Dragon Age Origins isn't anything to do with its design as a game. There are weak moments, yes, but overall, the game is solid. The main problem area is the software itself. The program is a buggy, broken, unoptimized mess. With the console servers shut down, you might think, oh, I'll just play it on PC. Well, no, you won't, unless you patch it to hell and back first. Ostagar is a known crash zone. The game is only optimized to use a single PC core, so if you have a multi-core build, prepare to disable all but one of them every time you launch it, or download a stability patch, or a pre-patched launcher. Then find the right graphical settings. Also be aware there's a memory leak bug which is unfixable, meaning the first time you load the game, loading screens will take 2 to 3 seconds, but if you play for more than 3 hours, the cache fills up, and you'll start seeing 20, 30, even 40-second loading screens between rooms. This isn't your PC not being good enough, it's the game not being good enough. But the strangest system quirk, one you'll definitely run into if you ever replay this game on PC, is the class specialization bug. As you progress the game, you'll unlock specialized classes either by completing long quest chains or buying the instructional book from a vendor. Then, when leveling up, you can switch to that specialization, unlocking a new skill track and new abilities. You'll see this as we'll be speccing into the Arcane Warrior class later, but what confused me for this review is, why do I already have the Arcane Warrior unlocked when I know it's a reward for completing a hidden quest? It's because once you've done the quest or read the book to unlock a specialization, it will be unlocked on every future playthrough of the game, and this data is stored in the game files, not per save. So my Arcane Warrior unlock from the Twitch stream years ago is still available from the start. The bug here is you can save your game, spend a load of gold to buy a skill book for a class, read the book to unlock the class, which sets that class flag as unlocked permanently, then reload the game to before you bought the book, meaning you'll have your gold back, but the class is now still unlocked because the entire program sees you as having read the book at least once. I can see the fun side of starting a run with overpowered classes, but it really breaks the RPG element and kills the reason to ever redo the class quests. After praying to the machine spirit after patching the game many times, I finally get it running somewhat stably. We head into the wild, joined by Daveth the Archer and Jury the Warrior, the other 2 Warden recruits. I like how you can talk to your companions at any time out of combat to get their input on your current mission. We find a dead body with a letter detailing a hidden weapons stash, and this happens a lot. Letters, riddles and clues to find things, but even if you don't find the letter or the clue, you can still find the thing. This dying soldier tells us the Darkspawn attacked them and everyone is dead. We heal him up and send him back to camp. Activate the Flaming Weapons Sustained spell for extra damage, shown as this little orange damage number on each hit. Then I bite off slightly more than I can chew, and the Warden, that's the game's generic name for your main character, dies. But unlike Baldur's Gate, where your character dying means game over, you just switch to another party member. As long as someone survives combat, everyone gets back up and you still win. It's very much an ensemble performance. You are not any more or less special than the rest of your team. In a lovely graphical touch, after any combat encounter, you'll be covered in blood, and in-game cutscenes are rendered in engines, so that blood effect and any magical weapon or armor enhancements stay active, such as flaming or freezing swords. Deeper in, we find the abandoned Warden outpost. Go and get the treaties, but instead meet Morrigan.
Well, well. What have we here? Are you a vulture, I wonder? A scavenger, poking amidst a corpse whose bones were long since cleaned? Or merely an intruder, come into these darkspawn-filled wilds of mine in search of easy prey? What say you, Scavenger or intruder? 'Tis a tower no longer. The wilds have obviously claimed this desiccated corpse. I have watched your progress for some time. Where do they go, I wondered? Why are they here? And now you disturb ashes none have touched for so long. Why is that?
Don't answer her. She looks chastened, and that means others may be nearby.
Oh, you fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
Yes, Alistair, swooping is bad. Morrigan is a sorceress, aloof, uncaring, genuinely sociopathic. She openly mocks and belittles anyone she sees as weaker than her and has no problem intimidating others into helping her, or hurting others in the pursuit of power. She is the opposite of Alistair, and if you do get to know her later, she even says that she doesn't understand how or why you would make friends. Morrigan takes us to meet her mother Flemeth, an actual witch of the wilds who has protected the treaties for years. She gives us them back, saying the upcoming threat is greater than we know, and we return to camp, heal the dog with the herbs we found, and give Duncan the treaties. We now use the Darkspawn blood for the Grey Warden joining ceremony, where we drink the blood to become immune to the Darkspawn taint, and there's a rather high chance this will kill you. Daveth the Archer does in fact die. This terrifies our knight friend so much he backs off and goes to fight Duncan instead of completing the ceremony, so Duncan kills him. We drink, survive, and are now a Grey Warden, so we head off to chat to the king some more and meet the king's father-in-law and advisor, Loghain.
Loghain, my decision is final. I will stand by the Grey Wardens in this assault.
You risk too much, Cailan. The Darkspawn horde is too dangerous for you to be playing hero on the front lines.
That's the case. Perhaps we should wait for the Orlesian forces to join us after all.
I must repeat my protest to your fool notion that we need the Orlesians to defend ourselves.
It is not a fool notion. Our arguments with the Orlesians are a thing of the past, and you will remember who is king.
How fortunate Marek did not live to see his son ready to hand Ferelden over to those who enslaved us for a century.
Then our current forces will have to suffice, won't they?
Loghain is Queen Anora's father. He is what we in the business call a bit of a tit, self-centered and nationalistic to a fault. He doesn't believe this is a true blight and refuses to wait for reinforcements from the neighbouring Orlesian Empire. He doesn't want to look weak to a foreign power. He is convinced the Kingdom of Ferelden is strong enough to repel the Darkspawn themselves. So we have a plan. The King, supported by Duncan, will draw the charge of the main Darkspawn offensive, bearing the brunt of the assault, allowing him to live out his hero fantasies. Meanwhile, Alistair and I will sneak around the edge and light a fire at the top of a tower. That fire will be the signal for Loghain to lead his troops in a counter-charge into the Darkspawn flank, wiping them out. We just need to light the signal at the right time. time because Loghain's charge is the main offensive moment of our plan. So we wait and it begins. The Darkspawn emerge and rush. The king valiantly fights on and we begin our secret mission. I love how you can look down from the bridge and see the battle raging below, even getting hit by an errant catapult shot, connecting the background ambience and foreground reality. Reach the tower and it's already flooded with Darkspawn, so we fight our way in. And I fight valiantly, but goddamn, I am being wiped out. I'm not controlling the enemy traps, I'm not issuing orders fast enough, and this part very much reinforces how Dragon Age Origins is a tactics game, not an action one. When you see a trap get triggered, you can't react and avoid it, it's already happened. When you see an ogre start to charge, you can't dodge, it's already locked in. When you see that fireball flying through the air, it's already too late. This is classic stat-based RPG. It's all about the behind-the-scenes dice rolls. All you can do is weigh the rolls in your favour. A codex entry talks about grease fire and how certain environmental hazards can be set alight for bonus damage, something we'd see other RPGs do like Divinity Original Sin 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. But you never end up using it much beyond this moment. I then loot an item with the gift keyword. Gifts can be given to companions to make them like you, unlocking companion-specific questlines, and yes, there is a relationship system with the lewdest scenes late 2000s graphics were capable of showing. But it's not just about dating. Certain events will change depending on how much your team likes you. You even need to kill companions if they don't like you enough. You'll quickly learn battlefield control is more important than damage, like how Winter's Grasp freezes enemies and Fireball knocks them down. That's why you use it, not because an enemy is weak to fire, but because they're weak to being on the floor. I love this animation flourish where Alistair beheads an enemy with a spinning backhand. Sometimes melee combat gets these little glory kills. We pull a lever, release some warhounds, then lure enemies back into them for an ambush. Use whatever advantage you can. Reach the top of the tower and face a powerful Darkspawn ogre. We all attack at once and get taken out one at a time. Eventually the fight is won by unnamed tower guard, who gets a cinematic leap and mace stab combo. None of the other guards will ever believe him. We equip some cool armor the demon dropped and then light the beacon so Loghain can signal the countercharge.
Sound the retreat.
But what about the king? Should we not...
Do as I command.
Pull out! All of you, let's move!
So Loghain betrays us, leaving his son-in-law King Cailan, Grey Warden Duncan and all the state's troops to die in the Darkspawn attack. Why? Because Loghain is a colossal prick, that's why. And he wants to be known as the saviour of Ferelden himself, not a supporting charge to the king's plan. In a bittersweet ending, we do get to see King Cailan show his true colours and actually be brave charging an ogre before being ripped apart. Duncan avenges him, but then he too dies. Darkspawn ambush us in the tower, the world goes black and we wake up back in the woods. Morrigan's mother Flemeth has taken care of us and Alistair. Flemeth explains that the dragon we keep seeing in our nightmares is an archdemon, the commander of the Darkspawn army, and unless we stop it, the entire world is doomed. She explains the Grey Warden treaties that she protected for so long are ancient contracts between the Circle of Magi, the nomadic Dalish elves, and the Orzammar dwarves, promising the Grey Wardens support in times of blight. It is now our duty to call in these promises, to gather an army capable of stopping the Darkspawn. And as a final gift, Flemeth gives us one more thing, her daughter Morrigan. She is to journey with us and help unite the clans. Morrigan is hesitant at first, but the fate of the world beats personal preference. Plus, she doesn't want to live with her mum forever. So Dragon Age Origins begins, but if you take a moment, you'll see how this plot, while not following beat for beat, is remarkably similar in structure to Mass Effect. In Mass Effect, you're sent with Kaidan to recover a beacon from the starting zone which you won't return to. Then you touch the beacon and begin having horrible visions of something evil. Here you're sent with Alistair to recover some Darkspawn blood and treaties from a starting zone you won't return to. You drink the blood, then begin having horrible visions of something evil. In Mass Effect, you're then betrayed by Saren, a spectre corrupted by power, believing he's acting for the greater good and his evil actions justify how many they will save. Here you're betrayed by Loghain, a lord corrupted by power, believing he's acting for the greater good and his evil actions are justified for how many they will save. In Mass Effect, you begin having visions of the Reapers returning, commanding their smaller minions, the Geth. Here you have visions of the Archdemon returning, leading their smaller minions, the Darkspawn. In Mass Effect, you're then made into a Spectre, a self-sufficient agent of a known but still secretive agency, operating outside of any jurisdiction for the good of the universe. Here you're a Grey Warden, a self-sufficient agent of a known but secretive agency, operating outside of any jurisdiction for the good of the realm. In Mass Effect, you then meet Liara Tassoni, a magical scientist, daughter of the powerful matriarch Benezia, who will have plot relevance later. Here we meet Morrigan, a sorceress, daughter of the powerful Flemeth, who will have plot relevance later. In Mass Effect, you then have to choose which of 3 leads to follow on 3 different planets, Feros, Noveria, or Vermeer, and once you've done them, head to Ilos, which brings worrying revelations about the final enemy. In Dragon Age Origins, you have to choose which of 3 treaties to follow first, the Circle of Magi, the Elvish-Dalish clans, or the Orzammar dwarves, and once you've done them, heading to Redcliffe, which brings worrying revelations about the final enemy. They're both BioWare RPGs, so they've definitely got a framework. If someone says Dragon Age is just fantasy Mass Effect, there is a structural argument to that. Now, it's not a bad thing, it's a solid narrative, compelling emotional pacing, and decent RPG structure, but it is undeniably a similar thing. Alistair suggests before we go calling in the treaties, we head to the village of Redcliffe, home to his friend Eamon. We can explain about Logain's betrayal and gather support from the human armies first. I like this plot hook. It's a great way to encourage a player in a direction without forcing it. I'll trust Alistair, let's head to Redcliffe. Even though maps aren't very big, any travel time is usually filled with whatever companions you have talking to each other. It's world building, character building, and it's usually quite funny.
Do you really want to take her along because her mother says so?
If you worry that I will summon demons and transform into an abomination, I assure you I will at least wait until you are not looking.
I feel better already.
Travelling from map to map uses the world map screen. DLC's specific locations are marked in gold. When travelling, you'll see an ink trail from start to finish, and sometimes you'll trigger an ambush or a quest event along the way. Crossed swords appear, and you have to defend yourself, similar to being ambushed in Baldur's Gate. With a party formed, we now have the party campsite, accessed by leaving any map. This is a resting hub between missions, similar to the Normandy in Mass Effect. Being here cures all injuries, you can talk to your companions to update personal quest lines, or give gifts to increase your reputation with them. Eventually you'll be able to access a shop, and it's the only location you can travel to without being attacked during the journey. The Mabari hound we healed earlier finds us again and joins us for a 4th party member. We cross a bridge on our way to Redcliffe and meet some bandits trying to extort a toll. You can pay, attempt to intimidate, or start a fight. I'll start as I intend to go on. I am a Grey Warden. No one intimidates me. Get ready to die. And here we find a locket on the body of a dead Templar, another quest hook. These are all over the place. Quest hooks, not dead Templars. And obviously you want to build for combat success, but you also want to keep the banter in the party top-notch, which is why it's worth keeping Alistair and Morrigan around.
So let's talk about your mother for a moment.
I'd rather talk about your mother.
Well, there's nothing to talk about. And besides, isn't your mother a scary witch who lives in the middle of a forest? Much more interesting.
To you, perhaps. You would find the moss growing upon a stone interesting.
You know what's more interesting than that? Apostates, mages outside of the tower. That's illegal, you know.
You did not read that in a book somewhere, did you? I hope the small letters did not strain you overmuch.
Oh, we could not talk about your mother. That works for me.
The journey to Redcliffe takes us through the smaller village of Lothering. This is the transition between tutorial and main game. Lothering has a few local quests, moral choices, new companions, items, and mini-bosses to find, but it is entirely self-contained. This merchant is increasing his prices to profit from the desperate refugees fleeing the Darkspawn attacks, and having strong feelings about Uber surge pricing myself, I kill him. We also see Alistair disapproves when we do this. Giving gifts to companions is just one way of raising your standing with them. Your moral choices will impact them too, positively and negatively. There's a local job board handing out side quests like hunt down some bandits, and this terrified guy preaching about how we're actually all going to die.
The legions of evil are on your doorstep. They will feast upon our hearts. There is nowhere to run. This evil will cover the world like a plague of locusts.
Please, you're scaring the children.
Better to slit their throats now than let them suffer at Darkspawn hands. I watched the Black Horde descend on my people. Darkness swallowed the marshes whole. I ran, hearing my wife's screams as they dragged her off. The blackness will come!
The local chantry is overflowing with refugees fleeing the Darkspawn horde, and rumours of how the king was let down by the useless Grey Wardens. It seems Loghain has been twisting the truth already. We also discover Aemon, the man we're heading to see, is deathly ill, and attempts to cure him have all failed. They're so desperate they're even looking for the mythical ashes of Andraste, the burial urn containing the remains of Andraste, the human wife of the magical godlike being known as the Maker. This child then says they've lost their mother, some bad men with swords came, and you can reply, well, good luck with that. Explore Lothering some more, and Alistair and Morrigan continue to earn their spot on the team.
I have a wonder, Alistair, if you will indulge me.
Do I have a choice?
Of the two of you that remain, are you not the senior Grey Warden here? I find it curious that you allow another to lead while you follow.
You find that curious, do you?
In fact, you defer to a new recruit. Is this the policy of the Grey Wardens, or simply a personal one?
What do you want to hear? That I prefer to follow? I do.
You sound so very defensive.
Couldn't you crawl into a bush somewhere and die? That would be great, thanks.
Pop into the local tavern and bump into Loghain's men. Whenever combat starts, there's this lovely moment of tactical assessment where you work out exactly who is going to die first, who needs to be knocked down, and how much collateral damage a fireball would cause. And after this fight, we meet feisty red-headed priestess Leliana.
I apologize for interfering, but I couldn't just sit by and not help. Let me introduce myself. I am Liliana, one of the lay sisters of the Chantry here in Lothering. Oh, I was. I joined the Chantry to live a life of religious contemplation. But I am no priest, not even an initiate. They said you were a Grey Warden. I'm surprised you're an elf, but elves must want the Blight defeated as much as humans, no? I know after what happened you will need all the help you can get. That's why I'm coming along. The Maker told me to. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but it's true. I had a dream. A vision.
More crazy? I thought we were all full up.
Look at the people here. They are lost in their despair, and this darkness, this chaos, will spread. The Maker doesn't want this. What you do, what you are meant to do, is the Maker's work. Let me help.
I admire the fact Leliana joins the team because God told her to. Fair play. I mean, I'm here because Duncan told me to, and Morrigan's here because her mum told her to. We're all just doing what somebody else told us to do. Leliana is an ex-initiate of the Chantry and now rather dogmatic rogue. The DLC, Leliana's Song, explores her backstory in more detail, but with a fifth team member, we are forced to leave somebody at camp so the dog, whom I've named Cat, can get some sleep. Leliana is one of my favourite companions and has some absolutely adorable after-combat dialogue.
Oh, look! My bruises form a pretty pattern.
While here, we also meet Sten, a caged-up Kunari. Dragon Age Kunari are a powerful race of tall, humanoid-shaped warriors, sometimes with horns or slicked-back-style headwear. A military race who conquered quickly, commanding powerful dreadnought ships, but are now peaceful with every nation except the Tevinter Imperium. Not to be confused with Mass Effect's Turians, a powerful race of tall, humanoid-shaped warriors, sometimes with horns or slicked-back-style headwear. A military race who conquered quickly, commanding powerful starships, who are now peaceful with every nation except the Krogans. Anyway, Sten says he's awaiting trial for violently murdering 8 people on a local farmstead. Welcome to the team, Sten. Alistair can hang at camp for a bit, and cool, Morrigan can shapeshift into a spider and use the web attack. The Baldur's Gate video highlights how broken web is in any RPG. I then failed to open a chest, but Leliana informs me
I could do that for you.
Leliana's lockpicking skill is higher than the Warden's, so you need to control her manually when you try and open chests or doors. The annoying thing here is she will still say I can do that even when she can't. I died to the local bandits here a few times, and this is where the game starts really testing your micromanaging skills. Lothering is a good proving ground. We use our herb lore skill to pass a quest by making some potions, and then our poison skill to pass a quest by making some poison, and cosmically that's just cancelled itself out. You can use reagents from plants or dropped by enemies to make stuff, but you can also buy most things you need in the shop. We find the kid's mum from earlier. It seems her subscription to life has ended. We finish the Lothering quest and head on over the big bridge to Redcliffe, and here we save a dwarf merchant and his son from a bandit ambush.
Mighty timely arrival there, my friend. I'm much obliged. The name's Bodon Feddick, merchant and entrepreneur. This here is my son, Sandal. Say hello, my boy.
Hello.
Road's been mighty dangerous these days. Mind if I ask what brings you out here? Perhaps we're going the same way. Complicated? Somehow I imagine that only says half of it. Thank you for the offer, but there may be more excitement on your path than is good for my boy and me. Allow me to bid you farewell and good fortune.
Goodbye.
Now then, let's get this mess cleaned up, shall we?
Saving these two matters because the next time you go to your party camp, they will have set up shop there, and you can meet Sandal.
Hello.
He can enchant things.
Enchantment!
This camp is getting quite busy. This local trader asks us if we want to go and liberate the old Grey Warden camp at Soldier's Peak. That's a DLC quest with some decent weapons and armour if you do it at a higher level. While here, I chat to my companions. Leliana trusts the Maker but is disillusioned with the Chantry itself. Alistair just makes jokes, Stem thinks his life is worthless and dying is a good penance for what he's done, and Morrigan is trying to leave the grasp of her mother. What a dysfunctional band we are. En route to Redcliffe, Alistair reveals something rather major. Eamon, the man we're going to visit, raised him as a child but isn't his real dad. Interpersonal connections matter here for the story, so here's a chart to visualise it. Marek was the old king, married to Rowan. Rowan had two brothers, Eamon and Tegan. Marek and Rowan had a child together called Caelan, who would go on to become king. Rowan sadly died from a wasting sickness, suspected to be the Darkspawn taint, when Caelan was around 3 years old. 2 years later, while on a mission to the Deep Roads with the Grey Wardens, Marek meets and has a short-lived affair with the Grey Warden mage called Fiona. Months later, Fiona delivers a newborn baby to Marek, making him swear that the child would never be made aware of his true lineage, because if anyone knew the child was the half-elf, half-mage bastard son of the king, they would likely try to kill him. That child is Alistair. King Marek then entrusted Arl Eamon, the deceased wife Rowan's younger brother, with raising Alistair at his estate in Redcliffe, believing his mother to be a serving maid who had died in childbirth. Alistair spent the first 10 years of his life in the Arl's house. Then, at the Arlessa's insistence, Eamon had to send him to the Chantry for training as a Templar before he was finally recruited by Duncan into the Grey Wardens. King Marek was good friends with Loghain. They defended the realm together until Marek became lost at sea. Loghain searched for him for years, convinced he was being held hostage in an Orlesian prison, but was unable to find him, which explains Loghain's disdain for the Orlesians. With Marek missing declared dead, Caelan became king, and Loghain advised him. King Caelan married Loghain's daughter, Honora, making her queen. With Caelan now dead at the Battle of Ostagar, Honora has become queen, and Loghain has declared himself regent, acting as her advisor and commander of all of Ferelden. Now, if Alistair did push his claim for the throne through his bloodline on his father's side, there are those who would support him. But Alistair does not want to be king. We arrive at Redcliffe village at the base of Redcliffe Castle. It seems the castle itself is flooded with undead. They are attacking nightly, increasing in severity, and the defences are running out. We speak to Tegan, Rowan's brother, Alistair's honorary uncle, not through blood, but through compassion. He seems like a genuinely decent dude.
Well done, Thomas. Greetings, friends. My name is Tegan, Ban of Rainisfere, brother to the Arl.
I remember you, Ban Tegan. Though the last time we met, I was a lot younger and covered in mud.
Covered in mud? Alistair? It is you, isn't it? You're alive! This is wonderful news.
Still alive, yes. Though I'm just as surprised about that as you are, believe me.
Indeed. Loghain would have us believe all Grey Wardens died along with my nephew.
Night is closing in, so we help the locals prepare tonight's defences before beginning our assault on the castle. The blacksmith refuses to fix the weapons until his daughter is found. Apparently she's lost in the castle. We promise to find her and then he gets back to work. We ask the Chantry mother to bless the local soldiers and she refuses because our persuade isn't high enough, so we let the soldiers know that God's gonna sit this one out. It's up to them. Wait until nightfall and join the local militia in repelling the undead horde. Veilguard, survive several waves of enemies, and by morning, Lady Isolde, Tegan's sister-in-law, has managed to escape the castle and begs Tegan to return with her, saying there is a great evil in the castle, released by the mage who was trying to cure Aemon. Who is this mage? We don't know. So we sneak into the castle by a hidden entrance through the dungeons. And down here we find Jowan, our old blood mage friend. And here's where the plot thickens. Jowan says he was working for Loghain and poisoned Aemon, but he's not responsible for the demonic possession which is now happening. And then the game plays the wrong audio file, not matching the subtitles.
There are other options, however. What became of Lily? They didn't hurt her, did they? The thought she had me tortured.
We learn Connor, Aemon's son, has natural magical power, and Connor's mum didn't want the Chantry to take him away to the Circle of Magi, so Jowan has been guiding Connor in magical studies in secret. But Connor's connection to the Fade is strong, and he has been taken over by a demon. Your party has a chat about morals, and you get to decide Jowan's fate. I decide to free him. Go on, you little blood mage scamp. Get out of here, you cheeky chap. Stop letting people get possessed, you little rascal. We fight through Redcliffe Castle, and it's pretty tough. I actually die so much I stack up a load of injuries and decide to run all the way back to camp to heal them for free. But while there, Sten asks some rather emotional questions.
I don't understand. You look like a woman. You are a Grey Warden, so it follows that you can't be a woman. Women are priests, artisans, shopkeepers, or farmers. They don't fight.
Now, these are delicate subjects, but they are important to talk about. Dragon Age Origins wants to have a brutal human world, and so approaches bigotry, racism, and sexism in a very brutal and honest way, by just having characters, both good guys and bad guys, be bigoted, racist, and sexist, whether it's a cultural expectation from that character's background, or just who they are. Sten the Kunari doesn't understand female warriors. The Dalish elves don't understand why we're working with humans. Morrigan hates how we willingly work with anyone we could just kill. Leliana pushes back against organized religion, even though it's shown to have some positives. Dragon Age Origins is ultimately a game of bigotry and expectations. You meet very few people who are accepting of anything you are, and you overcome those expectations by just being really damn good at your job. But the best RPG angle is you cannot please everyone, because they fundamentally want different things, and choices which appeal to one will insult another. You don't overcome all the odds and win everyone over. You decide what values you hold, you fight for them, and accept the consequences that will bring. We'll see this happen with choices we make multiple times. The game doesn't actually preach there is a right way to be, only different cultures' beliefs and choices, and each of them has successes and failures attached to it, with consequences for supporting or not supporting any of them. Deeper in, we find the blacksmith's daughter holding true to our promise. We open the main castle gates and let the reinforcements charge in with us, and in the main hall we find a strange sight, and Connor, the child's voice, is remarkably deep.
So these are our visitors? The ones you told me about, Mother?
Yes, Connor.
And this is the one who defeated my soldiers? The ones I sent to reclaim my village?
Yes.
And now it's staring at me. What is it, Mother? I can't see it well enough.
This is an elf, Connor. You've seen elves before. We have them here in the castle.
Oh, I remember. I had their ears cut off and fed to the dogs. The dogs chewed for hours. Shall I send it to the kennels, Mother?
So Jowan poisoned Aemon under instructions from Loghain. Then Connor, the son, sold his soul to a demon in order to save his father's life. Connor is now a demonic vessel, and Aemon is only slightly alive because of the power of the demon. Killing Connor would kill the demon, but it might also kill Aemon. The demon commands the guards attack us, they do, and we fight back, but then Jowan has an idea. He can perform a ritual which will allow us to enter the Fade and kill the demon possessing Connor within the Fade, which would save Connor's life. However, the ritual requires blood, about one person's worth of blood. Someone has to die. Connor's mum immediately volunteers, willingly sacrificing herself for a chance of saving her son. But there is another way. If we can convince the Circle of Mages to help us with the Fade ritual, we can enter the Fade using huge amounts of lyrium, the magical crystal, instead instead of using blood magic. This is another narrative hook. We need to call in the treaty from the Circle of Mages anyway, so 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll put a pin in the possessed child for now and go and find some mages. Off to the Mages Tower, a little wolf ambush on the way as a treat, and then take the boat to the tower, meet up with Gregor, our old Templar friend, and explain that we need to talk to the mages. But guess what? There's a problem. The tower is flooded with demons and abominations, so the Templars have sealed the doors. No one goes in or out. This means the mages are sealed inside. We agree to go in and save everyone, but on the limitation that once we are in, we cannot come out until we have found First Enchanter Irving and confirmed it is completely safe. Morrigan, as always, lets us know her thoughts on this.
You want us to assist this preachy schoolmistress to rescue these pathetic excuses for mages? They allow themselves to be corralled like cattle, mindless. Now their masters have chosen death for them, and I say, let them have it.
In the tower, we meet Old Lady Wynne, a powerful healer. She says she's coming with us, and you have to have her for this part, which is fine because she is a fantastic support caster. Our party grows. Take down some rage demons, Wynne already proving her value by healing everyone all the time. And we even see the Tranquil from earlier. They are not too bothered by anything. Higher up the tower, we find some blood mages who say Loghain promised them independence from the Chantry's watch if they supported him. I do understand not wanting to be under the Templars' thumb, but they attack me, so they have to die. Find our first abomination, and honestly they're not that bad, but then I am ambushed and get completely wrecked. I am still learning how to cheese combat. Meet a Desire Demon, find a load of possessed Templars, win the fight by running away and fireballing as I go. Keeping things stun-locked is the only real tactic. Further up the tower, we start seeing some red gooey growths, flesh and sinew, and then the Desire Demon again, and we learn that she is controlling the Templar.
Our love and our family is more than you hoped for.
Do you hear something, love?
It is nothing, my darling. Just the door. I will get it. The children have finished supper. Tuck them into bed while I see who it is.
Don't be long. The children will want to kiss you goodnight.
I will be but a moment, my pet. You are intruding upon a loving, intimate moment, and I dislike disruptions.
What was that?
Help! There are bandits at the door. They're going to murder the children.
They will not get past me!
Kill everything, carry on up the tower, and meet the demonic abomination, who convinces us everything is fine. We're tired. Just close your eyes. Let everything be fine. Have a little nap. Drift away. And we think that's a great idea. You fall into a deep sleep, dreaming about Weishaupt, the Grey Warden headquarters. But Duncan is here. We won. The war's over. But no, this can't be right. Duncan's dead. We remember the fight. The truth. This is just a dream. So we fight fake Dream Duncan, activate a nearby pedestal, and must escape the Fade. Welcome to what many people consider the worst part of the game, escaping the Fade. There is a reason one of the most popular mods for this game is Skip the Fade. You traverse the areas of the Fade by finding these altars, and each area has a mini-boss or a puzzle you have to solve to unlock the connected zones, with some zones having multiple puzzles locking them away. We meet Niall, a mage who was trying to save the tower when the Abomination Demon first took over. He says he was going to use the magical Litany of Andrala to resist the mental domination magic. The Litany is physically on his corpse in the real world. If we can escape the Fade, we need to find it. So how do we escape? Activating a pedestal shows you all the connected Fade zones, so we travel around and save this mouse. It's actually a guy, but now you have the ability to turn into a mouse, shown in this little radial menu here. While in mouse form, we are stealthy and can use the mouse holes to travel around, and this gets us deeper into the Fade. Here we find a really useful thing, a permanent increase to cunning. I wonder if there are any more of these. We're now blocked by a wall of fire and some enemy hounds charge at us, so I really hope whatever build you were going for is good at solo combat, because otherwise you're going to have a really bad time here. Take down this flaming Templar, calming his spirit, and now we can become the second spirit shape, the Burning Man. This unlocks fireball spells and immunity to fire damage while in this form, so we can walk through the flaming walls. Save another Dream Mage and gain the Golem form, able to smash down doors and resist physical damage, and then find another stat boost, increased dexterity. These permanent stat boosts are the best and worst thing about the Fade. In total, there are 21 stat boosts. With leveling up giving 3 stat points, that's the equivalent to 7 levels available within the Fade. And if you miss them, you cannot return. The only way to find all of them is to gather all 4 spiritual forms, Mouse, Flaming Man, Golem, and Ghost, and then backtrack repeatedly around every map twice. This can take the better part of an hour if you already know where you're going. Longer if you don't. The Fade is long, samey, and you feel obligated to explore all of it to not miss the stat points. So we save another Templar and gain the final form, a dark wraith-like thing who floats around with his hand dramatically covering his face like a flamboyant vampire. This form lets us use the ethereal doorways we've been seeing around the place. Wander around the Fade some more, open this door and find some gamer subs. It's this bit! This is the sponsored bit! If you want a great tasting drink at decent prices or some stylized waifu cups, try gamer subs. Use code JOSH for 10% off. Link in the description. Back to the video. Disclaimer, gamer subs does not actually exist in the Fade. This is a stylized advert section. Do not stay in the Fade hoping you will find gamer subs. You will not. You will only find death and frustration, 2 ingredients which are definitely not in gamer subs. Take on the secret Yavenna boss, collect all the boosts, and hey, with 38 magic, I can now equip the Blood Plate. I've specialized into Arcane Warrior, which lets me use my magic level to meet the strength requirements for equipping armor and weapons. So I'm a magic-focused melee fighter, and will be relying on sustained spells to increase my defense. Face off against a Desire Demon and then meet Alistair. He's convinced he's found his sister Goldana and is happy. He isn't aware this is not real. We kill the fake Goldana and Alistair comes to his senses. We then find Leliana. She doesn't remember us, convinced she's still in the Chantry and everything is fine, but some more demon killing and she is back with us. When we meet Wynne, she is mentally strong enough to know this is all a dream and with a little help breaks herself free. With our team free of the mind control spell, we meet up in the Fade and fight the Abomination, which reveals itself to be a sloth demon. This fight has the demon cycle through 4 different forms, each week against one of your 4 different spiritual forms, but I kind of forgot that was a thing I could do and just brute force my way through the fight, killing it and breaking free of the Fade. Back in the real world, we take the Litany of Andrala from Nile the Mage's body, fight on up the tower, taking on the Greater Rage Demons and Greater Shades, all of these posing quite a challenge, and eventually meet Cullen, an imprisoned Templar who is convinced we are demonic visions. He even mentions it's cruel the demons would take the form of the woman he always loved. Why, Cullen, I had no idea. Come and find me after all this is over. Reach the top of the tower and find the blood mage Uldred, now an abomination. We witness him torturing another tower mage, brutally electrocuting the man until he agrees to make a deal with the demon and become an abomination himself. So we fight, and make sure you are using the Litany of Andrala as an item whenever you see Uldred attempting to mind control one of the circle mages. If you don't save enough circle mages by using the litany, you won't be able to complete the ritual to save Connor. The demon goes down, the mages are safe, and we walk with First Enchanter Irving back to the start of the tower. He honours the treaty and pledges the circle's full support against the Darkspawn. One of the 3 main quests done. We return to the party camp to heal and receive Sten interrogation round 2.
The Blight. How will you end it? If you hope to slay the Archdemon with wit, you may want to arm yourself first. You say you are a Grey Warden. I have heard stories of this order. Great strategists and peerless warriors. That is what we hear of the Wardens. So far, I am not impressed. Evidently not. It remains only to see what you are here for.
While here, we learn a few new things. Several people know we survived the Battle of Ostagar, so Loghain's advisor Rendon Howe, voiced by the amazing Tim Curry, has hired the Antivan Crows, a ruthless band of assassins, to hunt us down and kill us.
It appears it will be civil war after all, despite the Darkspawn. Pity. I also have an interesting report. There seem to be Grey Wardens who survived Ostagar. How, I don't know, but they will act against you. I have arranged for a solution, with your leave.
The Antivan Crows send their regards. An assassin?
Against Grey Wardens, we will need the very best, sire.
And the most expensive.
Just get it done.
To add to all this, Morrigan has discovered something rather shocking about her mother Flemeth.
Here, in great detail, Flemeth explains the means by which she has survived for centuries. Oh, if only 'twere so. Flemeth has raised many daughters over her long lifetime. There are stories of these many witches of the wilds throughout chastened legend, yet I have never seen a one, and always wondered why not. And now I know. They are all Flemeth. When her body becomes old and wizened, she raises a daughter, and when the time is right, she takes her daughter's body for her own. There is only one possible response to this. Flemeth needs to die.
So Flemeth is body-hopping through the ages, using her daughters as vessels. Morrigan doesn't want to continue this cycle, so asks us to kill Flemeth. Okay, Morrigan, I'll add kill your mum to the list of stuff we have to do. Return to Redcliffe and start the ritual to enter the Fade inside Connor's mind. We meet Aemon in the Fade, well, part of his spirit, and then find the controlling desire demon behind this whole thing. She wants to negotiate, talk this through like civilized people. She fulfilled the kid's wish and saved his dad, and now uses the kid as a vessel. It's all totally fair within the deal. However, I have exactly 0 time to listen to demons talk, so we fight and she dies, the kid is saved. But without the demon's power supporting him, Aemon returns to his sickness. There is now only one thing which may save him: the mythical ashes of Andraste, the human remains of the Maker's wife. Nobody is actually sure if these ashes are real, but if they were, a scholar might know, so we head to the main city of Denerim to track down any leads. En route, we meet a woman who needs help, so we help, and oh no, it's an ambush! And I die here, because it's a very good ambush. Clearly the Antivan Crows know exactly what they're doing. This encounter is hard because of the extreme burst damage you will take when the fight starts. You won't have your shields up and you can't out-heal it. It's a real difficulty spike. Origins has these moments of lovely narrative flow interrupted by remarkably difficult combat encounters. So I just about survived the ambush and question one of the assassins. Meet Zevran.
Oh, I rather thought I would wake up dead, or not wake up at all, as the case may be. If you haven't killed me, however, you must have kept me alive for some purpose, yes? Let's see then. I assume you kept me alive to ask me some questions, yes? If so, let me save you time and get right to the point. My name is Zevran. Zev to my friends. I am a member of the Antivan Crows, brought here for the sole purpose of slaying any surviving Grey Wardens, which I have failed at, sadly. It sets a rather poor precedent, doesn't it? Getting captured by a target seems a tad detrimental to one's budding assassin career. A rather taciturn fellow in the capital. Logain, I think his name was. Yes, that's it. As it is, if you're done with the interrogation, I have a proposal for you. Well, here's the thing. I failed to kill you, so my life is forfeit. That's how it works. If you don't kill me, the crows will. Thing is, I like living. And you obviously are the sort to give the crows pause, so let me serve you instead.
A fine plan, but I would examine your food and drink far more closely from now on, were I you.
That's excellent advice for anyone.
Zevran, you are a dishonorable man and a terrible assassin.
I wasn't aware such loveliness existed amongst adventurers, surely.
Welcome to the team. The main city of Denerim is pretty busy. Another Chanter's board with more side quests, a Templar who has forgotten who he is due to lyrium abuse, and a local guard sergeant upset all his recruits are snivelling nepo babies unwilling to do any actual work. Good lord, Dragon Age, you didn't have to put so much reality into my fantasy game. The captain actually asks us to calmly and quietly deal with some trouble at the Pearl, a brothel in the Docks district. The local bartender has some secret quests only available if you are a rogue, thankfully Leliana is. So we gather up some dead bodies and drop them down a well. Remember, we are the good guys. A knight, Salandri, believes we are the Grey Warden responsible for King Kaelin's death, so challenges us to an honourable duel. We win, and okay, now 2 people are dead. What was gained here? Denerim is laid out similar to the city of Baldur's Gate, several districts travelled between via gates. Head to the Pearl in the docks, find some free marcher mercenaries, and deal with them calmly and quietly by killing everyone in a calm and quiet manner. The captain of the guard then berates us, saying we promised to be subtle, and yes, we were. They died subtly. We then learn of a local explorer, a man called Brother Genetivi, who was looking for the ashes of Andraste, making some progress. So we head over to his house, but he hasn't been home in a few weeks. Waylon, Genetivi's assistant, says he went to the tavern by the Mage's Tower, so we start tracking him down. Leave Denerim to head to the Mage's Tower and trigger the Superman origin story.
How did a child survive that? The crater is still smoking. It's a boy. 5 fingers, 5 toes. That's all that matters to me. The Maker has answered our prayers. Let's go home, Marta, and raise the Tyke as our own.
This random meteor event will trigger sometimes when you travel from place to place and gets you some powerful ore. If you have the Warden's Keep DLC, you can use this to make the powerful Starfang sword. On my way, I save a local farm from Darkspawn. I mean, yeah, all the farmers died, but so did the Darkspawn, so we'll call this a draw. It seems some local lords are unwilling to bow to Loghain and doubting the events of the Battle of Ostagar, so a civil war is starting too. Brilliant! And then a heartfelt moment back at camp where Alistair genuinely thanks us for taking the time to save Connor and not using blood magic.
I just wanted to thank you. You went out of your way to save the Isle's family, and you did it. Even though it would have been easier not to. There's been so much death and destruction. It makes me feel good that at least we were able to save something. No matter how small. I owed the Isle that much. You're right. Hopefully, by that time, there's still enough of Ferelden left to save. Good. Now that the warm, fuzzy part of the day is over with, we can get back to the ritual dismemberments. Oh wait, it's not Tuesday, is it?
Reach the tavern by the Mage's Tower. The innkeeper says he's never heard of the explorer Brother Genetivi, but he's obviously lying. So we leave to have a look around, and the cult ambush outside confirms the fact he was indeed lying. So we return to Brother Genetivi's house in Denerim, kill Waylon for leading me into an ambush, and find Genetivi's actual journal. It seems he went to the western village of Haven, but got wrapped up in a local cult. So we pop on over to Haven, and man, this place has everything. A creepy guard, a creepy child, a creepy shopkeeper, and then the village really roll out the welcome wagon by trying to kill us. I learned that most people are up in the chantry, so head on up to have a chat to the local priest. And now time for some pedantic user interface nitpicks. On the character menu screen, you cycle through by clicking these arrows. A click causes the cycle, a glow effect around the button itself, and a flash which happens on the character box. Both are totally fine flourishes. But I want to know why you can click on the edge of the arrow, trigger the glow and the flash, but not cycle the characters. Well, it's because the exact area of the button is the click box to trigger all three things, the cycle, the edge glow, and the box flash. But the edge glow itself isn't just graphical. That extends beyond the button because it's a glow effect, and clicking on the glow will trigger the glow again and the flash effect, but not the cycle mechanic. Why? Don't know. A glow does not need a click box, but it has one. Quirks of old games. Into the Haven Village Chantry. Kill the local priest because he's with the cult, open a secret door, and find the captured Brother Genetivi. Seems he was actually close to finding the ashes of Andraste, and this cult protects the final resting place. Lest thousands of pilgrims flood the ancient tombs all at once and destroy history and damage the ashes, and you know what, yeah, I can actually understand that concern. We head up the hill and find the frozen temple of Andraste, the resting place of the ashes. Welcome to one of the longest dungeons in the game. Brother Genetivi hangs back to admire some carvings, and we go and spring all the traps. A load of cultists rush us, I learn the Inferno spell, and yeah, a massive whirlwind of fire. This works. Stacking area of effect spells is the best way to deal with groups of enemies. We kill some ash ghouls, eat some fireballs, open this chest, and an ash wraith jumps out at us, so yeah, Dragon Age Origins has rudimentary mimics. And then we discover the temple connects to a local cave system. And by now, I've stacked up so many injuries from repeated deaths, I am a walking corpse. I need to find a way to approach combat more tactically, and unfortunately, I find it. I now discover the ultimate cheese. Enemies do not work in groups. They may be placed in groups, and the encounter might be balanced around a group of enemies all being aggroed at once, but it is technically just a lot of solo enemies placed together, and enemy AI does not react to other enemies being attacked. This means with a long-range bow, you can force your team into hold stance, slowly sneak forward and shoot one enemy, draw them to you, and then kill them one at a time. This is an information hazard, because once you know it, you can't unknow it. At higher difficulties, this is one of the only ways to beat some encounters, and now I know this trick, the only challenging fights are the ones which start with all the enemies already attacking you. Deeper in, we meet Colgrim. He says Andraste has returned to us and we will meet her soon, then attacks us because he's clearly insane and absolutely destroys me. I'll come back here later. We find some baby dragons, and if a drake knocks you to the floor, they will gore you for a ton of damage. Horrible, but visually really cool. Killing a drake gets us a drake scale, which starts a new quest. Find someone who can make drake scale armor. I'll do this later. Find a bunch of dragon eggs, return to Colgrim for their fight, win, and head outside and spot our first actual dragon. You know, for a game called Dragon Age, there are surprisingly few dragons, but this does make sense because the ones you find are really impressive and scary. There are some hidden dragons you can summon and fight, as we'll see later. Through the mountain pass, we reach the Gauntlet. We must survive this to be worthy of the Ashes. The first test is a load of riddles, nothing too difficult, answer them all, and then we must fight ourselves. This is a combat encounter against an exact copy of your party, also where I learn exactly how annoying being fireballed repeatedly is, so I win by fireballing them repeatedly. If you can't beat them, arrange to have them beaten. Onto the bridge puzzle, one of the worst ones. 10 buttons around this chasm. Standing on one creates an ethereal bridge of stone. 2 buttons must be activated to make the stone solid enough to stand on. So you have to work out which 2 buttons relate to the same stone and switch between them while slowly moving one character across, or do what everyone does and just read the guide. The final test asks us to remove all of our equipment and walk into some fire because Andraste is just a freaky little thing like that, and this is what she's into. So we walk through the fire in our underwear, become worthy, and take a pinch of the mythical ashes. We let Brother Genetivi know that we've actually found the ashes. He was correct, and he rushes off to tell everyone. Now you can tell him not to, or threaten to kill him if he's still going to, and part of me thinks maybe everyone knowing the final resting place of a mythical godlike artifact with healing powers might be a bad thing, but I'm going to file this under not my problem. Return to Redcliffe, use the ashes on Aemon, and he's all better now. We inform Aemon of events, mostly Logain's treachery, and Aemon says our best course of action now is to present Alistair as a challenger to the throne. Aemon says he will call a lands meet, gathering all the noble lords and powerful landowners together to discuss the situation and the issue of succession. While he plans this, we return to gathering the treaties. Up next, the Dalish Elven clans. These are forest-dwelling nomadic elves, and of course the forests are filled with spiders, and eventually we meet the elven leader Zathrian. He is aware of the treaty but unable to fill it because, wouldn't you know it, he has his own problems. His clan is being attacked by werewolves. We discover the werewolf form is an ancient curse, and if we kill Witherfang, the oldest wolf, it would break the curse. There are some subquests here, like this awkward elf in love with another awkward elf, and he won't talk to her because he's nervous, and she won't talk to him because he's not past his hunter training, so we get them to talk to each other, and suddenly they like each other. Ah, young love. Not every quest is fully fleshed out. We get a book for our troubles. Fantastic. I buy a better bow from the local shop, and this elf asks us to find his wife in the forest. He fears she may be a werewolf now. So we head into the forest, kill a load of wolves, find some werewolves, kill some, and then meet one who can talk.
The Watchwolves have spoken truly, my brothers and sisters. Another of the Dalish come to put us in our place. Come to make us pay for our attack. Come, brothers and sisters! Swift Runner calls you to battle! Drive this invader from our midst!
Werewolves are not just mindless beasts, but a culture unto themselves, and they have a complex history with the elves, but they won't stop attacking me, so I kill some more of them. Then this ogre picks me up and uses me as a stress toy. Kill some living trees, because this is a classic fantasy game, so you just kind of have to. It's the law, and then meet the oldest tree who speaks entirely in rhyme.
Allow me a moment to welcome thee. I am called the Grand Oak, sometimes the Elder Tree.
It rhymes? 'Tis a rhyming tree. One can only imagine what manner of spirit is involved here.
Wow.
And unless thou think'st it far too soon, might I ask of thee a boon?
The werewolf lair is in the centre of the forest, but it's protected by a magical, confusing fog. If you venture into the fog, you just get turned around and wander out another part of the forest. To break the fog spell, you must be disguised as a tree. If we find the rhyming oak's magical acorn, he will give us one of his living branches, and the fog will think we are a tree and let us pass. The acorn was stolen by this mad hermit. He is willing to trade you stuff for the acorn. The special book from the elf romance quest earlier is one of the potential items you could trade, but there are others, all linked to subquests in the forest. You can try attacking the hermit in conversation, but he just dodges out the way every time. Leave the hermit for the time being and explore around, disturb this gravestone and spawn a powerful revenant. These are again a hidden subquest. There are 3 gravestones, each spawning a revenant, each dropping a part of the Juggernaut armor set, one of the best armor sets in the game, and then a secret puzzle in a forest temple which drops the final piece. I'll collect the full set later. Right now, revenants wipe the floor with me. I meet a werewolf who is aware they're a werewolf. Oh, that's the elf's wife. She gives us a scarf and begs us to mercy kill her and tell her husband she died a proud and noble elf. So of course, I oblige. Deliver the scarf back to the husband and get a pendant as a reward. This is another item we could trade to the hermit for the acorn. So I head back, but I really want to fight this guy. So I try searching the tree stump and you'll anger him into attacking you. He summons 2 greater rage demons and is a rather challenging boss fight. There's a bit of luck needed here. He's even willing to cast Blizzard centered on himself just to kill us. That's pretty hardcore. Eventually he dies, we take the acorn, then return it to the magical oak for a branch, pass through the fog wall, fight Swift Runner the werewolf again, and then this beautiful white wolf jumps down and saves him, running off into the temple. So we head in after them. This is basically Andraste's temple again, but werewolves instead of cultists. A few giant spiders, a small dragon, and a literal hoard of treasure. Throw in some undead for good measure and a subquest about following a ghostly child to a puzzle, and we're all set. These skeleton archers highlight the issue with speccing into a defensive build. You can still be knocked down. Some attacks will auto-hit you and always knock you down, and no matter how good your defense is, it doesn't matter if you can't grab the enemy's aggro because you're on the floor. Down here you'll find the arcane sorcerer ghost boss who summons archer enemies, floods the area with electrical damage, keeps you stun-locked, and can heal themselves, and this is where I make a choice that I never normally make in games. I turn the difficulty down. I know, it hurt me too, and you can make all the game journalist difficulty jokes in the comments that you want. But after I understood how Dragon Age Origins combat works, I realized it's more about abusing mechanics than making choices in the moment, reacting to anything. On medium or hard, enemies have more defense, higher spell resist, and do more damage, while you have lower spell resist. With the odds stacked against you like this, it turns the game into isolating every enemy and killing them one at a time, or stun-locking groups and cycling crowd control spells. On harder difficulty, there are spells which, yes, are fun, but they're just objectively wrong to use. Casual difficulty, though, is still a decent level of challenge, and I think makes the fights feel more like set pieces, not punishing puzzles. And with Origins being 50 hours long anyway, I don't want each fight to become a 30-minute trial of quick saving and quick loading. I think a first-time playthrough on casual is actually a better experience than normal. Wynne the healer learns haste, which buffs the entire party, giving them extra movement and attacks, and is as broken as haste is in every other BioWare RPG. We finally reach the inner sanctum and confront Witherfang, but now the plot thickens. Witherfang is a forest dryad, created by the elven leader Zathrian. It seems many years ago the Dalish clans were attacked by the local humans, so Zathrian in his anger summoned a demon and bound it to curse the humans into werewolf form. However, the curse has recently begun to spread to the elves, so all this is Zathrian's fault. If you return to the elves, you'll find Zathrian has followed you into the temple. He knew about all of this. You can now host a meeting between Zathrian and Witherfang, and learn that Zathrian's life essence is bound to the curse existing. He wants the humans to suffer, just not the elves. This leads to a massive fight where I side with the werewolves and they support me taking down Zathrian and some magical trees he's brought with him. Once defeated, you can convince Zathrian his hatred has consumed him and is now actively harming his own people, and help him willingly end the curse and his own life. With the werewolf curse gone, we return to the Dalish camps, they elect a new leader and agree to honour the Grey Warden Treaty. 2 down, 1 to go. I pop back to Denerim to find a smith for those drake scales, and in a lovely subversion of expectations, I get attacked in the party camp. The one place I always thought was safe. Kind of like the Citadel being attacked in Mass Effect. Your safe haven is now vulnerable. Back in Denerim, there's a subquest where Wade the Armourer can turn the Drake Scales into some of the best armour in the game. Just make sure you pay over the odds so he likes you and willingly improves it if you bring him more. Just be aware, once he's done this for you twice, he shuts his shop up for good. If you didn't buy Evan the Great's mail, you've permanently missed out on one of the best armor sets in the game. So for the final stretch, we're off to Orzammar to recruit the dwarves. The Frostback Mountains to the west are, of course, swarming with Loghain's troops, all looking for us, and I love how the first encounter with the dwarves is them denying Loghain's messenger entry because they don't bow to Loghain.
King Loghain demands the allegiance of the Desher, or lords, or whatever you call them in your assembly. I am his appointed messenger.
I don't care if you're the king's wiper. Orzammar will have none but its own until our throne is settled.
This is a taste of classic dwarven stubbornness. Right, all I need is the King of Orzammar to honour the treaty, but wouldn't you know it, local problems will prevent this, as currently Orzammar has no king. Just once, I'd like a fantasy game with a treaty get instantly honoured because the civilization has their stuff together. The current civil war is between Prince Balon and Lord Harrowmont. Dwarven culture doesn't recognise hereditary royal families. Blood doesn't make you king, local support does. And both feel their claim to the throne is the strongest. The Orzammar aesthetic mirror classic fantasy dwarves, smiths, anvils, chunky angled stone. While here, we meet Dagna, a red-headed dwarf who really wants to study magic. However, dwarves are cut off from the Fade, so have no magical ability at all. She explains she doesn't want to cast magic, just study it. Now, as an ex-teacher, the rarest thing in the world is finding a student who actually wants to learn, so I run all the way back to the Mage's Tower and demand First Enchanter Irving accept her as a student. He agrees, so we return to Orzammar and pass on the good news. Dagna is thrilled and leaves at once. Now, I didn't realise at the time this basically means exiling herself from the dwarven culture forever, but again, this is going in the not my problem pile. I love Leliana's ambient dialogue while walking around Orzammar.
After all this is over, I wouldn't mind getting a job here. I could sing, tell stories, help the king get items from high shelves.
Leliana is too precious for this world and must be protected at all costs. We need a dwarven king to honour the treaty. That means supporting one of the two candidates to become king. First we chat to Prince Belen's advisor, Vartak Gavorn. He says Lord Harrowmont, Belen's rival for the throne, has been promising land to lords supporting him, but Gavorn's got proof that he's promised the same land to two different lords, so if we show them that proof, they will switch and support Belen. But in the local fight caves, we learn that Prince Belen has been intimidating some of Harrowmont's champions to step away from the fights, lessening the Harrowmont honour. Basically, Prince Belen and Lord Harrowmont both seem like awful people, gaining power through underhanded means, and both more focused on making their opponents look bad than actually doing anything which makes themselves look good, which is probably the most realistic portrayal of politics in a fantasy game. There are a few twists and turns later, though, which prove one of them is much worse than the other. The only decent dwarf seems to be Lord Helmy, who, against his family's wishes, spends his time in the local tavern chatting to ordinary dwarves and wants to break the stranglehold the aristocracy has on the city politic. If I could make this guy king, I would. You can head to Dust Town, the poorer part of Orzammar, and meet the castless dwarves, and a side quest about reuniting this woman with her family after they disowned her because she had a kid with a castless dwarf. And then this shop refuses to sell me anything because I sent his daughter to the surface to study magic and now he'll never see her again.
You monster! You sent my daughter to the surface! Now she can never return! Get out!
Ah, yeah, I did do that. Whoever you choose to support, your journey will eventually lead you to the Deep Roads, an extensive series of tunnels below Orzammar, large enough it has its own world map-style navigation tool, and if you weren't playing on casual before, you'll want to here, because ambushes and combat encounters wait around every corner. Deeper in the Deep Roads, we meet Lord Dace, show him the documents proving Harrowmont was lying to him, and he'll head back to Orzammar. You can continue to explore the tunnels if you like, find some deep stalker dinosaurs and decent dwarven equipment. But eventually you'll have to head back, and back in town, the succession war is still raging. The prince asks us to clear out some criminals in Dusktown, so we ask around about Jarvia the gang leader, and then some Harrowmont fanatics attack us in the city core, and I don't care who is in charge. I just need someone to help me stop the blight. This is playground argument stuff compared to what's going to happen on the surface. Beat up some local thugs, break into the criminals' hideout, spend a good hour fighting through another linear dungeon, and eventually reach Jarvia. Why do you have the GamerSupps logo on your face? That's not even the sponsored part of the video, it's just there. Grandpa's Ashes of Andraste flavour. Make it happen. Jarvia constantly summons reinforcements, and you know, in another life, we could have been sisters, friends, colleagues, rising up against a corrupt aristocracy, but right now I just really need my army, so someone has to become king pretty quickly. Crime dealt with, back to the prince, and he says thanks, but he needs one more favour. Okay, what now? He says there's a girl, Bronca. She's exploring the deepest part of the Deep Roads. Bronca is a paragon, a wise and powerful figure born every few years to the dwarves, highly respected in dwarven culture. If we can convince Bronca to publicly support Prince Bellin, the throne would be pretty much his. But Prince Bellin adds on, if Bronca doesn't support him, we should kill her. I don't really agree with this request. Bellin is beginning to show he's a bit of a psychopath, so I turn him down and go and see what supporting Harrowmont would mean. And this is where I kind of break the game and the quest journal. The game expects you to either support Prince Bellin or Lord Harrowmont, but you can accept the starting quest from both of them and then finish each of these and hand them both in, getting the second in each of their support quest lines. But then they won't give you their third quest, because you're either on or have finished the other's second, leading to this quest deadlock. You need to head to Caradin's Cross in the Deep Roads, but that location doesn't show up until one of them gives it to you on their third quest. And despite saying, no, I won't help you kill Bronca the Paragon to Prince Bellin several times, because you've had that conversation at all, even though you've said no, you're now locked out of continuing Harrowmont's quests. The game sees you as having chosen to support Prince Bellin simply by progressing that far. You now have no choice. You have to return to Prince Bellin and say, I've changed my mind, I'll support you. This is an example of complex quest lines tying themselves up with quest flags, and it's not the only game of the time to do this. Origins came out in 2009. 1 year later, in 2010, we'd get Fallout New Vegas, with the side quest Beyond the Beef having multiple plot hooks, several connecting narratives, and multiple endings, all densely packed into a single hotel, all incredibly easy to break. Being forced to work for Prince Bellin, I return to the Deep Roads and meet Ogren, a former noble dwarf, now a castless berserker. He knows Bronca and wants to check she's okay, so joins up with us, another companion. We learn Bronca was searching for a thing called the Anvil of the Void, a magical artifact used to create autonomous golems. With it, you could create an endless army of golem soldiers, defend Orzammar, defeat the Darkspawn, maybe even conquer the surface world. That sounds like a bit too much power for one person to have, so we go and hunt her down. Many people consider the Deep Roads to be another weak part of the game. It's long, repetitive. There are 14 mini-bosses down here. It takes hours to make it through, and backtracking is rife with the maze-like tunnel layout. There are spiders, ghostly dwarves, the now mad Ruck, a dwarf who ran away from home and something down here drove him mad, and eventually we find Bronca's diary. It says the Anvil of the Void is in the Dead Trenches, a deeper part of the Deep Roads, so in we go, and down here we find the place we've been having visions of. A chasm filled with Darkspawn, a standing army, and the Archdemon itself, a giant dragon flying around commanding them. So this is where the Darkspawn are waiting, but where are they coming from? We'll find out pretty soon. Down here we find the advanced Dwarven Legionnaire force holding the bridge against the Darkspawn. So we fight across the bridge, Leliana specs into Ranger and gains a wolf companion, and we push into a grand hall and take down a tough Forge Master, and then find the Legion of the Dead set. Legion equipment is scattered around the Dead Trenches and is one of the best heavy armor sets in the game. It's worth taking your time to find it all. But while down here, we start to hear poetry and see floating words.
First day they come and catch everyone. Second day, they beat us and eat some for meat. Fifth day they return and it's another girl's turn. Sixth day, her screams we hear in our dreams. Seventh day, she grew as in her mouth they spew. Eighth day, we hate it as she is violated. Ninth day, she grins and devours her kin. Now she does feast as she's become the beast.
Eventually we meet the mysterious singer, a mad dwarven captain. She was with the Bronca expedition, but Bronca did something unforgivable. And now she's seen things, heard things. The dwarven regiment they came down here with is something else now. Her mind is broken. So we fight on, and I love how when you take down an ogre or larger enemy, the game slows into this cinematic kill cam. Very flashy. Find all of the Legion armor, take down some ghosts, and tank up Morrigan with a two-handed maul. Melee mages are damage machines. Into the deepest room of the Dead Trenches, and we find a brood mother. This horrific, bloated mass of flesh and tentacles, and we learn some rather disgusting lore. Males of any race exposed to Darkspawn corruption will either die or slowly transform into ghouls, but females will become brood mothers. Not all survive the process. The lucky ones die. The unlucky ones are force-fed darkspawn flesh and bile until they mature into this. The original race of the broodmother will change what they then give birth to. Elves make shrieks, dwarves make genlocks, humans make hurlocks, and Kunari make ogres. So all these darkspawn we've been fighting, they've been birthed from a mix of different race corrupted broodmothers. And we learned that Branka willingly let Laren, one of her soldiers, be transformed into a broodmother simply to then use the darkspawn offspring they would create as fodder to activate all the traps surrounding the Anvil of the Void, letting them reach it. An endless supply of flesh shields to throw into the dangerous area. With the broodmother killed, we confront Branka about what she's done.
Let me be blunt with you. After all this time, my tolerance for social graces is fairly limited. That doesn't bother you, I hope.
Well, shave my back and call me an elf. Branka, by the stone! I barely recognized you.
Ogren. It figures you'd eventually find your way here. Hopefully you can find your way back more easily. Our protector, our great invention, the Anvil of the Void. The means by which the ancients forged their army of golems and held off the first archdemon ever to rise. It's here. The anvil lies on the other side of a gauntlet of traps designed by Caradin himself. This is what's important. I've given up everything and would sacrifice anything to get the Anvil of the Void.
Branka firmly believes she has done all this for the good of Orzammar, and finding the Anvil of the Void is worth any price, moral or physical, because an army of golems is simply worth that. We push on and find the first major trap, a really cool boss fight, a lyrium-infused cavern with 4 smaller anvils and a pillar hanging from the ceiling, spinning around with 4 faces. It blasts magic at you. To damage it, you must kill the dwarven spirits, infuse their essence onto the anvils, and then activate the anvils to send that spirit energy into the central pillar as an attack. And once the pillar trap is destroyed, we reach the Anvil of the Void itself.
My name is Caradin. Once, longer ago than I cared to think, I was a paragon to the dwarves of Orzammar. Though I made many things in my time, I rose to fame and earned my status based on a single item, the Anvil of the Void. It allowed me to forge a man of steel or stone, as flexible and clever as any soldier. As an army, they were invincible, but I told no one the cost. To make my golems live, I had to take their lives from elsewhere.
More revelations, because nothing is ever easy. The anvil doesn't create life from nothing, it simply traps a living soul into an immortal golem body. Every golem in an army would be a sentient being forever. The anvil was originally an honorable choice, with brave warriors willing to give up an eternity to defend their homeland. But then it started being used as a punishment. Criminals, political enemies, anyone going against the king had their souls ripped from their bodies, trapped in constructs forever. Caradin, the Golem creator, asks us to destroy the anvil, and I agree, no one should have this much power, it's too easy to abuse. This means we must fight Branka. And she's a tough fight. With her golem control rod, she turns some of the created golems against us, but you can fireball your way to victory, then stay true to our word and destroy the Anvil of the Void. As a reward, Caradin the Golem forges us a crown to present to whoever we want as king, then throws himself into the lava to finally die. Back at Orzammar, neither of these two is a good choice, but I will give the crown to Prince Bellin, trusting him to be a fair and just ruler. And as his first act as king, he sentences Lord Harrowmont to death. Think I might have chosen the wrong guy here. Well, he finally agrees to honour the treaty and support the Grey Wardens, so again, this gets filed under the Not My Problem section. With all 3 treaties honoured, we can clear up some loose ends before the lands meet. In the Orzammar throne room, I found this weird button, which makes a noise if you stand on it. Apparently this is a big secret puzzle. If you have 3 members of your party stand on 3 different buttons around the city and then interact with the throne, you will spawn a secret dragon boss. But if you finish the Orzammar questline before doing this, you lock yourself out of being able to do it for the rest of the game. Thank you, BioWare. Return to the forest and kill all the revenants to get the complete Juggernaut armor set, perform the water jug ritual to open the final elvish tomb and get the chest plate, and now I've got Thorn in the Blood Dragon plate, Morrigan in Dead Legion, Wynne in the Juggernaut, and Leliana in Wade's superior drakeskin. Honestly, if I die now, that's on me. Now just a quick sidetrack to kill Flemeth. She's an old lady. How hard can this be? You can't do this quest if Morrigan is in your party, so you stay at Camp Morrigan, have a nice sit down while I go and kill your mum.
Come. She will earn what she takes. I'd have it no other way.
Well, turns out Flemeth isn't just a shape-shifting body hopper, she's an ancient and powerful dragon, and this is one of the hardest fights in the game. Even on casual, oh, you're about to suffer. Flemeth burns, rips, and tears my party down. Everyone dies, it's down to the wire until only Flemeth and Wynne are standing. It's a granny-on-granny throwdown, and Wynne channels that old lady energy, cracks Flemeth around the head with a hammer, leaps onto the dragon's neck, and brings the smackdown, crushing Flemeth's head under the weight of her massive mauls. There's actually some lovely environmental and mechanical storytelling here. We find Morrigan's best armor in Flemeth's hut. Now, narratively, Flemeth can't control Morrigan's body without her approval, so Morrigan's final armor is called the Robes of Possession, and mechanically, they lower the wearer's willpower. That is a lovely way of tying an item to the story. We let Morrigan know her mum is dead and gain 14 favour. We then ask Morrigan why, with her mum dead, she's still here, and she gets offended, and we lose 10 favour. That's what we in the trade call a fumble. Return to Aemon at Redcliffe and say we're ready for the Landsmeet, but we are warned. Loghain has extremely high approval rating among the lords, and our authority as a Grey Warden only goes so far. Many people still don't believe this is a real blight, so we should go and talk to everyone first before risking this meeting. We return to Denerim, but on the way, the Antivan Crow assassins show up again, Zevran's old gang. Nice touch here. If you've been taking Zevran with you on missions and your approval rating with him is high enough, he will remain loyal to you, forsake his old gang and fight by your side against them. But if, like me, you've not been taking him on missions, Zevran will betray you, rejoin his old gang, and now you have to kill him permanently. What a waste of time. Should have killed you when I first met you, Zevran. We meet up with Queen Anora's handmaiden and learn a horrible truth. Loghain has kidnapped the queen and is planning to kill her and frame Aemon for it. So Loghain is willing to kill his own daughter, Queen Anora, just to secure support for his place as ruling regent. This is Howe's estate, where the queen apparently is being held. It's crawling with guards, so with the help of the handmaiden, we begin the late 2000s mandatory stealth section to sneak into the castle and rescue Anora. And this is where the pacing of the game starts to feel really off. Origins can be broadly divided into 3 acts. Act 1 is the opening up until after the Battle of Ostagar. Act 2 is collecting all 3 treaties and the Redcliffe Connor possession, and Act 3 is this bit: Queen Anora rescue, Landsmeet, jailbreak, final battle. Act 1 is small scale, but tightly paced with great character development, and Act 2 is varied in scope and mechanical choice, but this third act feels stretched thin. Collecting the 3 treaty races to form our army and fight the Darkspawn, the Archdemon, felt like the build-up, and this is meant to be the climactic payoff, but this last act just drags. The Darkspawn don't even get mentioned for the next 4 to 5 hours, and instead, we focus on the minute political manoeuvring of Loghain, Howe, Anora, Aemon. The point of the Grey Wardens is to be big picture guys, to see the forest through the trees and be above this petty squabbling for the good of the realm as a whole, but no, we're back to political infighting for the next 5 hours. And it's around here that the inter-party banter seems to dry up. The opening of the game is so strong character-wise, the middle treaty bit is fantastic world-building and mechanical gameplay, and it feels like they'd both come together into a firework of an ending. But no, this is where both aspects start to fizzle out. The energy we've built up just takes too long to reach the payoff. Right, let's go solve politics.
Oh, you must come. I saw something. By the fountain. I think it was a darkspawn.
Should we call for help?
Did you fall off a cart full of stupid? Call for help? So they can see us act like scared little girls because of some knife-eared wench?
If there is something out there and we don't sound the alarm, we'll look worse than scared.
And drast these holy knickers.
Fine, we'll check the courtyard, if it'll keep you from wetting yourself.
I do like this bit though. We're asked if we want to wear a disguise and avoid combat while sneaking into Howe's estate, but you can just say no and go in guns blazing, which of course is the correct answer. Reach the Queen's room, but it's magically sealed, so we need to go and find the mage who cast the spell and kill them. This means it's off to the dungeons. Down here we meet a captured Grey Warden. He snaps a guard's neck while they're distracted and strolls out all badass. This is Riordan, and he's been shoehorned into the plot because Duncan is dead and the game needed someone to tell you what to do and be a badass in a later cutscene. If you've played the game before, you probably forgot this guy existed. And eventually, after an age of killing guards, we confront Tim Curry.
Well, well, the Grey Warden. I must say I'm surprised Eamon would condone you invading my castle and murdering my men. Is he losing faith in the persuasive powers of his land's meat? The traitorous bitch has you under her thumb? Honora does love games. I'm surprised she'd play with the likes of you. You should have left when you had the chance, Warden. Slunk off to the Anderfells to hide with the rest of your kind. This landsmeet is a farce. Loghain will triumph, and you will die.
Kill Rendon Howe, Loghain's right-hand man, sorry Tim, free more political prisoners, and finally free the Queen. We begin our escape but bump into Loghain's ambush force along the way, and the Queen betrays us.
Don't be ridiculous. The Queen isn't being held prisoner here or anywhere else. Her father would never stand for such a thing.
What? Sir Catherine? Praise the Maker you're here. This brigand tried to kidnap me.
Unbelievable. Bring them down! Loghain wants the Warden dead or alive!
This is a fight you can lose and the game continues. You're just captured, thrown into Fort Drakon and need to escape. This entire section feels like filler. Find a guard uniform, disguise ourselves as a guard, overhear a conversation about how 2 new guards have forgotten the password, and is that Cam Clark? Again.
That's why I write it down every day and keep it in my pocket. I got stuck on the 2nd floor hallway for 3 hours last week. I swear those guards are possessed by demons or something.
Cam Clark is a voice actor in every single fantasy game. He is Pavel, the first voice you hear in Neverwinter Nights.
I was afraid you were going to sleep all day. I guess the instructors work you pretty hard here at the Academy.
To escape, we must find a dress sword, then pass inspection from the captain. This whole section is a 30-minute runaround, and when we do return, our team doesn't even welcome us back or notice that we were kidnapped.
This is a nice estate, isn't it?
Queen Honora is also here. She explains she didn't betray us but was trying to save herself, playing the long game. Okay, so now can we confront the Darkspawn? No. Now we have to head to the Elven Alienage, a kind of long-term refugee camp, because there's a plague happening and maybe it's not real and we need to sort this out first because it has political relevance. Locals in the Alienage tell us that mages from Tevinter, a powerful nation to the north of Ferelden, are taking the elves into a building and curing them, but they're not coming back out. So we fight our way in, find some imprisoned elves, spend an hour in different fights, and finally meet Caladius, a slave trader. He offers you 100 gold, that is a huge sum of cash, to look the other way and forget what we saw, but I've killed so many people I'd be letting the god of murder down if I didn't do a little bit more. This fight is brutal, and again I'm reduced to the cheese of pick a single guy off and lure them away from the group. The mechanic here is Caladius is a blood mage and drains the life force from his own men to survive. After you defeat him, he begs for his life, but absolutely not. We kill him and find a slave contract signed by Loghain. I also discover if you give the beggar outside some money, eventually he comes back with a crowd of people all expecting more.
There she is!
I still don't have my parents.
Yes, sir. And poor Oli still doesn't have his parents.
After the riot, many people were left without a home, sir.
You're like a hero here, good sir.
You aren't a real beggar.
All I heard was there was free coin over here. Fine.
Return to Aemon, bring proof Loghain is a slave trader, and he calls the landsmeet. You have to have Alistair in your team for this bit. Of course, Loghain's guards try to stop us getting in, but with the power of love, friendship, and incredible violence, we do indeed get in. With all the lords and ladies gathered, we can lay out the truth. Queen Honora stands up and betrays us again.
Lords and ladies of Ferelden, hear me. This warden has slandered and defamed Ferelden's greatest hero in a bid to put an impostor on Merrick's throne. Did he? Are you certain of that? I know my father. He would never do less than his utmost for the sake of his country. But I needed to know your mind, Warden. You could have proven yourself an ally of Ferelden. It is unfortunate for all of us that you did not.
If you've spoken fully to the Queen after you've rescued her before every quest you can then do, you can get her to support you, but it's not actually that important. You show proof of Loghain's slave dealing, explain how he fled the Battle of Ostagar, and if you've done enough side quests and spoken to enough people, you can make the Landsmeet go in your favour. If you haven't, they actually vote to remain loyal to Loghain. Either way, this ends with a giant fight, you against Loghain and all of his men. The Landsmeet melee is a brutal fight, and even if no one got me, I know Fireball always got me. Enemies spawn endlessly here, so run out of aggro range and draw them slowly until you can isolate Loghain and put him away from the crowd. Eventually, Loghain demands an honourable duel between himself and the man who would be king, Alistair. However, you can volunteer to fight as his champion, which I do. Beat Loghain almost to death, and now a hidden choice. If you freed the Grey Warden in the prison, he suggests recruiting Loghain to the Grey Wardens. And there could be some merit to this. Loghain is a capable fighter, a brutal leader. He could be a strong ally. He is what many people refer to as the secret companion, because you can get him in your party. But if you choose to do this, Alistair will leave the party permanently. Or you can do what I did, which is give Alistair the honour of killing Loghain to avenge Duncan.
I will. I owe that to Duncan.
Splattering Loghain's blood against his daughter Honora wasn't part of the plan, but we'll just call it a happy little accident. With the Regent Loghain dead, it falls to us to choose the next monarch. You can vote for Honora to remain queen, support Alistair as king, or ask for them to rule together. I decide to put Alistair solo on the throne because I'm tired of having to solve problems and I want my anti-Darkspawn army. Honora refuses to bow to Alistair, so he imprisons her for now. Good choice, King Alistair. Out of sight, out of mind. Alistair rallies the people to fight the Blight and then, in a lovely emotional breakdown, confronts us about how he truly feels.
You made me king. After all this is over with, they're actually going to put me on the throne. I'm going to be the king. Congratulations. Congratulations? Why would you do this to me? How could you? I've done nothing but regret my blood since the day I was born. I don't want this. I never wanted this. I hate the very idea of it. I knew that Arleman wanted this for me, but I never did. I thought for sure that there would be a way out of it. But then you went and put me on the throne yourself. I guess I don't really have a choice in this now, do I?
Alistair, you will sit on that throne and you will like it. I don't want to hear another word from you until we've killed the Archdemon. Also, help me God, I will turn this crusade around. With everyone finally done, we return to Redcliffe to rally the force and fight the Blight. But the Darkspawn are already here. We clear out the village, head into the castle and take on an Alpha Ogre, one of the toughest enemies yet because of the chain stun attacks. We learn the main Darkspawn horde is marching on Denerim, and then a final revelation because nothing is ever easy. Only a Grey Warden can kill the Archdemon, because when the Archdemon dies, it will simply transfer its spirit into another nearby Darkspawn. But if the killing blow is dealt by a Grey Warden, because of our connection to the Blight through drinking Darkspawn blood, we can forcefully absorb the essence of the Archdemon. The only downside is doing this will kill the Grey Warden, so someone has to die for this blight to end. That sounds like a problem for future me. For now, we'll just carry on. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. We retreat to our chambers to have a good night's sleep, but Morrigan may have a solution to our problem.
Do not be alarmed. It is only I. I am well. 'Tis you who are in danger. I have a plan, you see. A way out. The loop in your hole. I know what happens when the Archdemon dies. I know a Grey Warden must be sacrificed, and that sacrifice could be you. I have come to tell you that this does not need to be. I offer a way out. A way out for all the Grey Wardens, that there need be no sacrifice. A ritual. Performed on the eve of battle, in the dark of night. All I ask is that you listen to what I have to offer. What I propose is this. Convince Alistair to lay with me, here tonight. And from this ritual, a child shall be conceived within me. The child will bear the taint, and when the Archdemon is slain, its essence will seek the child like a beacon. At this early stage, the child can absorb that essence and not perish. The Archdemon is still destroyed with no Grey Warden dying in the process. It will become something different. A child born with the soul of an old god. After this is done, you allow me to walk away, and you do not follow. Ever. The child will be mine to raise as I wish.
Morrigan, as much as I don't like the idea of someone sacrificing their life to save the realm, I like the idea of giving you a demigod baby even less. If you're playing as a male character, Morrigan wants to conceive a child with you. If you're playing as female, she'll ask for Alistair. I can see the practical logic in the whole thing, but that hypothetical child would be the only actual innocent person in this process, so no, I'm not letting you use a baby as an archdemon battery. Denied her old god power station, Morrigan leaves permanently. You will not have her in the final battle. And I'm sad to see her go, but maybe it's for the best. Maybe we just value different things. I wish her well, and oh no, the Legion of the Dead armor. She was wearing the whole set. God damn it, Morrigan, you just took some of the best armor in the game with you forever. One armor set and one magic user down, we approach the final battle, and Alistair steps up to his role as king.
Before us stands the might of the Darkspawn Horde. Gaze upon them now, but fear them not. Today, we save Denerim. Today, we avenge the death of my brother King Kaelan. But most of all, today, we show the Grey Wardens that we remember and honor their sacrifice. For Ferelden, for the Grey Wardens!
In the final battle, you only control your character, but the rest of your team is all here. However, it's still not straightforward. There are 2 Darkspawn generals in the city, and we need to kill both of them first. And then Sten says the most accurate line he has ever said.
I have done nothing.
During this whole section, you'll see the army pick a circle on the right, similar to the Fade transformation, except now you have 5 choices and you can see how many of each army remain. You can recruit 1 helpful army per map per section, and these are the treaties you called in earlier. You can bring in Aemon's troops, the Circle of Magi, the Dalish Elves, or the Orzammar Dwarves, and if you chose to help Branka and gave her the Anvil of the Void, you can recruit golems. Much like the final mission in Mass Effect, we now need to choose who to take with us and who to leave guarding key points around the city. And as you defeat Darkspawn generals, you'll actually have small sections where you need to control the other teammates that you've left behind. So I hope you've been leveling them up and equipping them. That Legion of the Dead armor would have been real useful right about now, Morrigan. Eventually, the Archdemon swoops down and we need someone to jump on it and slice it open for a badass cutscene. Who will get the honor of grounding the Archdemon? That's right! It's Riordan! Remember him? The Grey Warden we rescued from the prison? The guy who had basically 0 screen time and no plot relevance? Yeah, he gets one of the most badass moments in the entire game. And then dies. Was this a writer's self-insert? With the Archdemon grounded but not dead, we advance through the castle, and this whole final section is an absolute slog. It's a 2-hour combat trial. Fight through the castle, then this outside bit with an enemy dragon, Darkspawn archers, and a Darkspawn mage at a distance. You start under fire. Wave after wave of melee fighters, shrieks, dogs. I lose this fight again and again and again. It's unforgiving. It's hard. I'm on casual, and winning it gets us into the castle with more fights. Every encounter here is potentially run-ending. It's incredibly tough. But there is some lovely environmental storytelling, like Sandal, the enchantment kid, standing casually surrounded by a sea of dead Darkspawn.
Enchantment?
He is too precious for this world. A line of enemy archers. 2 ogres tag-teaming me, and eventually, after about an hour and a half, we reach the rooftop, and hear the Wilhelm scream. That is a famous filmmaking sound effect. Look it up to see how many other places it's been used. And now the final battle with the Archdemon begins, and it is tough. A quick Google search shows the most popular result for Dragon Age Origins Archdemon are all, how do I beat the Archdemon? The fight itself is mechanically great. The dragon flies around, summons a load of adds which enter from the castle towers, and slowly you are joined by all of the NPCs you've met over the game. First Enchanter Irving, Aemon, the elves, the dwarves, the mages. It's an epic epic team-up battle moment. Then the dragon flies away onto a distant roof and you need to activate a giant ballista and shoot at it until it returns to where you can melee it. While doing this, you're defending against ranged fireballs and endless waves of darkspawn. You can call the armies that you found the treaties for as backup here. The main problem with this fight is it's just really hard. Enemies keep you stunned, the dragon has a load of knockdowns and cannot itself be knocked down, your allies are for the most part useless. It's an intense case of micromanaging every skill you have. I die so many times here, and you can't learn any sort of pattern because the attacks are random. But eventually, after one hell of a struggle, the archdemon goes down, and you have to decide who takes the killing blow. You can take the glory if you want, but it seems to me that Duncan always had a different hero in mind.
This right here is the best king I could be. My first and last act being to stop the blight before it really starts.
King for only a day, and already a legend. In my playthrough, Alistair sacrifices himself, avenges Duncan, making the Grey Wardens proud and saving the realm, absorbing the Archdemon's soul and then dying. He was a true Grey Warden and a worthy hero of Ferelden. There are multiple endings based on your choices. Alistair can survive. He can rule with Queen Anora peacefully, even marrying her, or wander into the street and become a drunk vagabond. And your choices will impact Dragon Age 2 if you choose to bring your save file forward. Something BioWare love doing, similar to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, or Mass Effect 1 and 2. Just be aware if I were to import this save, Alistair would be dead. If you attempt to resume the game after the final fight, you can go and explore and complete any quests or DLC that you've missed, like using the magical horn to call forth another dragon on the mountain pass and kill it. Just be aware any companions you've lost in this playthrough will stay lost. And that is Dragon Age Origins. It took me around 45 hours to finish and I didn't see everything, so was it actually any good? It has strengths, mainly the character writing for the first act, meaning the intro to your race, class, the Battle for Ostagar, the Village of Lothering and Redcliffe Castle, and the world building through the second act, collecting the 3 treaties and meeting more companions along the way. It begins to fall down, however, pacing-wise in the third and final act, which starts after you've found all 3 treaties, and is just too long to keep up the energy it's built up. Denerim, the elven alienage, the prison section, the Landsmeet, the 2 Darkspawn generals, the slog of the castle, and the final difficult fight. That would all benefit from being trimmed down substantially. The characters make the game, and it's lucky that we get some of the best ones, Alistair, Morrigan, and Leliana, early on. They become your group. BioWare have always excelled at creating great characters. The combat is fun until you understand how it works, and the cheese becomes the name of the game. Stuns, locks, drawing a single enemy away from the group. I personally find the game more fun on casual difficulty because it opens up more random, silly strategies and doesn't demand perfect play. Hard difficulty pretty much demands you mechanically solve the puzzle the way the game intended you to, by cheesing it. Beyond the game itself, looking at the software, it is old and janky. It's hard to get working on modern systems, so trying to play it is a chore. The music is stunning, as most BioWare games are, and the world of Thedas is built around the foundations of standard Tolkien-esque fantasy with enough unique flourishes to make it worth investing in. The Fade, the Deep Roads, the Werewolf Curse, it's all pretty interesting. But the most interesting aspect of Dragon Age Origins is how many bits there are that people don't like, and just seem to gloss over and forget when reminiscing. The Fade is a backtracking slog. The Deep Roads is too long. The final battle is too hard for the difficulty rating. Origins seems to have done this magical thing where its strengths have painted over the rather major cracks of its weaknesses. It's not a perfect RPG, but it does enough right, enough very well, to be forgiven for its flaws. It's memorable. It's fun. It's, dare I say it, enchanting. So to end the review, I will award Dragon Age Origins
enchantment
out of 10. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord. And as always, remember.
Yes, swooping is best.